Chapter 685. Qingjing lowered his eyelids in thought, analyzing clearly. If it's not Su Bei, then it's Su Fei. It can't be anyone else. They've brought the most troops, 100,000 elites. They're much better than the loose fishes of the Alliance. If the leader of the Alliance isn't born among them, I'm afraid they won't be satisfied. If they leave in a fit of pique, the Alliance will only exist in name, then we'll fall into the enemy's trap. 400,000 troops from the Alliance sounded majestic, but in reality, half of them were idle people who only knew how to cheer. They were just there to make up the numbers. As for the other half of the elites, the Su brothers made up 60%. If they left, what was the point of rescuing the emperor? Speaking of troops, Huang Song was depressed. Actually, the candidate he favored the most was Lu Shi. Lu Shi was old, had enough prestige, official status, and a good family background. He was definitely more reliable than the two brats from the Su family. However, Lu Shi did not play by the rules. He was the magistrate of Chongzhou, but he only brought 20,000 soldiers with him to rescue the emperor. One had to know that even a young man like Huang Song had brought along 25,000 yuan in assets. Someone asked why Lu Shi brought so few people. Wasn't it embarrassing? Lu Shi smiled and choked the person back. I am the governor of Chongzhou. The safety of the people of Chongzhou is the most important. Chongzhou is a bitterly cold place, bordering the three tribes of the northern borderline. The barbarians of the three tribes eyed the hinterland of Dongqing covetously. If a large number of troops were mobilized to rescue the emperor, the northern borderline would take advantage of the situation and attack the borders of Chongzhou. What would happen? Although rescuing the emperor is important, there are priorities. I think that national defense is the most important, and everything else is secondary. Look, this scene was beautiful. Who would dare to mock Lu Shi for having fewer troops? Huang Song and Qingjing returned to the tent. Feng Ju was buried in his work. Hearing the commotion, he looked up and saw the two enter one after another. Lord and Yumo are back. What's the news? The two shook their heads. Huang Song said, Lu Shi is too cunning. No wonder he used to be the chief of Hu County. He's not easy to deal with. Feng Ju listened to the two's description and frowned in thought. I'm afraid you've forgotten someone. Confronting Lu Shi head-on was asking for trouble. To drag this old fox into the water, there was no need to confront him directly. Who did you forget? Qingjing asked. Lu Shi. Feng Ju sneered and spat out the name. Huang Song shook his head like a rattle. This won't do. If I drag Lu Shi down with me, this father and son pair will not forgive me. Feng Ju explained, that's not what I meant. Qingjing frowned. He seemed to understand Feng Ju's plan. You mean, if the Alliance, or the two Langjuns of the Su family can't compete, they can turn around and support Lu Shi? Feng Ju nodded and said, yes, that's exactly what I meant. If Su Bei and Su Fei are unable to compete, it will definitely affect the unity of the Alliance army. When the time comes, the morale of the people will falter and Prince Changsho will have his way. Since that was the case, they might as well let Lu Shi become the Alliance leader while they were fighting over it. Although Lu Shi was a district magistrate, he was ambitious. All of Wanzhou was probably in his hands. With just Wanzhou, in addition to Chongzhou and Hu County in Lu Shi's hands, what power in Dongqing could go against them? Even if the two Langjuns of the Su family are unwilling, they have no choice but to bow their heads. Huang Song thought about it and agreed that it was a good idea. However, he was a little timid. He shrugged his shoulders and frowned bitterly. I'm afraid that Lu Shi will strangle me. The two of them were fair-weather friends. They hadn't seen each other for many years. After reuniting, they schemed against Lu Shi. He was really afraid that Lu Shi would press him to the ground and beat him up. Feng Ju and Qingjing looked at Huang Song silently. Their eyes were filled with an unfathomable light. They seemed to sympathize with him, but at the same time, they seemed to be embarrassed. My lord, do you dare to be even more timid? The three of them had planned it well. Everything was ready except for Lu Shi's arrival. They never expected that Lu Shi was indeed Lu Shi's biological son. As the father, he had brought 20,000 troops to protect the emperor. As the son, he was even more shameless. He had brought 10,000 troops to watch the show. Lu Shi and Jiang Pengji had the same idea. Anyway, their son, father, would bring more people. They wouldn't force themselves. Of the 10,000 troops that Jiang Pengji had brought, 6,000 were elites. The remaining 4,000 were new soldiers who had only trained for a few days. Their combat power was mediocre. Jiang Pengji finally brought 10,000 troops and finally arrived at the location of the alliance meeting, Huangshui. The sickly Feng Zhen was frozen like a quail. He clung to the carriage and refused to get out. Yang Si sneered at him. "Look at how useless you are." Although he said that, Yang Si's actions were very honest. He didn't want to get out of the carriage and ride a horse. Seeing the two men so timid, Jiang Pengji raised her eyebrows and mocked them indiscriminately. "Look at how useless you are." The weather was nice, but the two of them were still huddled in the carriage and refused to get out. They even had to eat in the carriage. Jiang Pengji couldn't stand it anymore. Yang Si said, "I'm old. I'm not as vigorous as young people." Feng Zhen said, "I'm already half a foot in the grave. Please take pity on me, my lord." Very well, the two strategists had successfully disgusted Jiang Pengji and driven her away. After Jiang Pengji rode away majestically on Little White, Feng Zhen snatched the hot water from Yang Si's arms. "You're fighting with a sick person. Yang Jingrong, you're regressing as you age." Yang Si wasn't someone who would wait to be captured without putting up a fight. "You said you were sick, but now you're full of vigor. Who would believe that you're a sick person? In terms of age, I'm older than you. You have to respect your elders. Then why don't you love the young?" Feng Zhen was flustered and exasperated. Listening to the commotion coming from the carriage, Jiang Pengji secretly rolled her eyes in annoyance. Why had she asked Feng Zhen and Yang Si to follow the army? The two of them were good individually, but when they were put together, they produced a subtle chemical reaction and kept on making noise. The two of them were almost 60 years old together, but they were still so frivolous. While riding on Little White, she scanned the bullet screen in the live stream room, intending to find some fun in it. The idle audience was still the idle audience. The bullet screen was full of fun. Yi Wuxianmu, it's so boring. I can only watch the two strategists love and kill each other every day to pass the time. Fake mud doll, #cheeks, Billy already has Yang Si and Feng Zhen's food. You're welcome to try it. Shu Shanyali, you evil cults look at people with rotten eyes. I feel that the two of them are walking further and further down the road of clowns. Kei Sang, that's their personalities. If it were Feng Jin, Wei Ci, or Su Ku, the atmosphere would probably be cold. Le Siji Lianmeng, are you so idle that you need to play CP to pass the time? Speaking of which, when will we arrive at Huangshui? Gue Kai Guofengxiu, same question. Let's wait while we knock on the bowl. If they didn't arrive at Huangshui, Yang Si and Feng Zhen's public image would collapse. Jiang Pengji looked down at the topographic map. According to the directions on it, there was still half a day's journey to Huangshui. After a while, scouts galloped over on horseback. My lord, there are scouts from unknown forces ahead. Chapter 686. This place was very close to the Huangshui River where the alliance meeting was held, so it was normal to run into scouts. After a round of probing, it was indeed a scout from the allied army. With a guide, Jiang Pengji could avoid many detours. My father has arrived. Both parties identified themselves, and the scouts of the alliance came over to pay their respects to Jiang Pengji. The alliance army scout cupped his fists and bowed. Governor Liu has arrived and is setting up camp on the east side of the alliance army's camp. Does Lu Langjun want to go over? Jiang Pengji smiled. Of course I have to go. Please lead the way. As the scouts passed on the news, the news of Jiang Pengji's arrival spread throughout the allied camp. There was a question that many forces were most concerned about: how many soldiers did Lu Shi bring? The answer was, more than 10,000. Everyone was speechless. Lu Shi had brought 20,000 soldiers and horses, and Lu Shi had brought 10,000. The father and son only had 30,000 in total, which was less than 1/10 of the alliance's total military strength. After all, they were a major force in Dongqing. Why did they bring so few people with them? Didn't they look shabby? They couldn't understand, but two of them breathed a sigh of relief. These two were none other than the two Langjuns of Zhe County's Su family, the brothers Su Bei and Su Fei. Although the two of them were cousins, they had been competing with each other since they were young and had almost fought to the point of becoming cross-eyed. The brotherhood was only about face and affection. There was no lack of discerning people in the Alliance army. Many of them could already tell that the Alliance army was facing a severe test. Many of them had thoughts of electing a leader. Of course, they wanted to elect a leader not to save Dongqing, much less to save the royal family. They only wanted to seek benefits from it. However, no one had the courage to stand out. After all, the bird that sticks out gets shot. Su Bei and Su Fei both had ulterior motives. Not only did they view each other as a thorn in their side and a competitor, they also had their eyes on the Lu family's father and son. He heaved a sigh of relief when he found out that Lu Shi had only brought 30,000 soldiers with them. With such a small number of troops, they definitely didn't have the qualifications to be the alliance leader, because they couldn't control the situation. After eliminating a formidable opponent, he only needed to guard against Su Fei, Su Bei. Jiang Pengji had yet to arrive at the camp of the Alliance army. Naturally, she did not know what strange thoughts others had in their heads. She happily ran to Lu Shi's campsite. Before she arrived, she was splashed with cold water. What? Father only brought 20,000 soldiers and horses? Jiang Pengji was astonished. Yang Si and Feng Zhen, who were wrapped up like penguins, were also astonished. 20,000 soldiers? What was the use of 20,000 soldiers? Were they going to be food for the enemy? On second thought, his lord was even more unsightly. She had only brought 10,000 soldiers with her. It seemed like this pair of father and son had come here just to be bystanders. When Lu Shi heard the news, he was also shocked. In the end, the father and son looked at each other, speechless. Jiang Pengji had brought very few people with her because the situation in Wanzhou was unstable. She was unable to transfer more people. Lu Shi had brought few men with him because Chongzhou was connected to the north borderline. The three tribes of the north borderline had a hard time this winter, and it would be even harder at the start of spring. If too many of their military forces were taken away, it was feared that the three tribes of the north borderline would not care about their lives and gather their troops to invade the south. Although the possibility was small, they still had to guard against it. Therefore, because of various reasons, the father and son became a member of the soy sauce ball. Although their military strength was superior, they were lacking in manpower. Regarding this, the two of them accepted it. It didn't matter if he could stand out or not. What mattered was that he could achieve his goal. No matter what the outcome of this rescue mission was, it was fine as long as it did not affect the fundamental interests of the father and son. Jiang Pengji had just arrived, so she needed to understand the strength of the alliance. Only after doing his homework would he have a clear idea of what was going on. Lu Shi had arrived earlier than her, so he knew more information. He said, "There are a total of 23 alliance troops this time. Among them, the most eye-catching are the two brothers of the Su family, the descendants of the Marquis of Guanyi, Su Gong. These two brothers are young and promising. They are good at everything except for their lack of experience. Their prestige still relies on the shadow of their ancestors. In this election of the alliance leader, these two will definitely participate in the fight and fight to the death. Although the title of alliance leader is an empty title, it is very important to them. Only by improving their reputation could they attract more talents to join them. Only then could their influence be further developed. Rather than saying that the position of alliance leader was an empty title, it was better to say that it was a living advertisement that would attract countless viewers. Lanting, do you have any thoughts about the position of alliance leader? Lu Shi asked his daughter. Jiang Pengji shook her head decisively. She said straightforwardly, I'm here to expand my business and see if I can bring a few people back. I have serious matters to attend to, not to play house with a bunch of children. Election of the alliance leader? Childish. They can elect whoever they want. I just have to do my own thing. I really don't care who the alliance leader is. Anyway, it can't be me. With such a small number of troops, she couldn't compete even if she wanted to. She might as well relax and watch the show. Lu Shi's expression froze. Daughter, does your strategist know that you're speaking so bluntly? Yang Si and Fengjin sat to the left and right of Jiang Pengji. They looked down and focused, like old monks in meditation. Lu Shi snorted and said, that's true. No matter how big the ruckus gets, it has nothing to do with us. The election of the alliance leader had nothing to do with them. They were better off watching the drama unfold as bystanders. Jiang Pengji blinked and secretly glanced at the two strategists who were offline. She suddenly said, Father. Lu Shi was puzzled. What's the matter? Jiang Pengji smiled and corrected Lu Shi's faulty wording. Not father and son, father and daughter. As soon as she said that, Lu Shi was shocked. Yang Si looked as if he couldn't bear to look at it, as if he had seen the end of the world. He raised his hand to his forehead. Fengjin's eyes widened in surprise. Then he covered his chest and coughed violently. Damn, he almost choked on his saliva. Lu Shi quickly regained his composure and asked his daughter with his eyes, why did you suddenly say that? Jiang Pengji said, in my opinion, this alliance meeting is a good opportunity. It can't be dragged on forever. Lu Shi didn't object. He had mentioned to his daughter about recovery, but Jiang Pengji didn't say anything, so he didn't rush her. His daughter obviously had her own ideas. Lu Shi didn't need to interfere. Below, Fengjin looked at Lu Shi eagerly, hoping that his lord's words were just a joke. Lu Shi said, as long as you like it. Back then, I made you dress up as a man and pretend to be your brother. That was because I had no choice. Now that you've grown up and can take responsibility, I'm very relieved. Lanting, what time do you plan to pick so that I can make preparations? Logically speaking, he still had to make up for his daughter's hairpin. Jiang Pengji said, we'll see when the time comes. There's no hurry now. His daughter wasn't in a hurry, so naturally, Lu Shi wasn't in a hurry either. However, there were two strategists here who felt like they were sitting on pins and needles. Fengjin even had an expression that said, I can't take it anymore, I need my sister to comfort me. How could his lord be a woman? How could she be a woman? My lord. Even the quick-witted Fengjin had times when he was stuttering. His gaze lingered below Jiang Pengji's chin and above her abdomen. Look, it's flat. Jiang Pengji understood. She glanced at him meaningfully and sneered. Do you want to verify it with your own hands? Fengjin, the frivolous one, said, can I? You can. However, I'm afraid that you'll break before you touch it. She glanced at the area 3 inches below Fengjin's navel with a faint smile. Fengjin felt a chill down his spine. He almost burst into tears. Chapter 687. Yang Si could not help but sigh when he saw Fengjin's defeated expression. How could he not know his lord's temperament? He held back his laughter and said, the truth is already in front of you. Why are you still unwilling to accept your fate? I think I can still be saved. Fengjin imitated Jiang Pengji's words in the past, like a salted fish. Yang Si couldn't laugh anymore. No matter how he tried to save her, he could not change the fact that his lord was a woman and not a man. I advise you to accept reality. With Master's temper, she won't tolerate anything. It's too late for you to replace her. Yang Si turned to look at Fengjin and reminded him. You've always been unrestrained and unrestrained. In the past, it was fine. After all, you and I didn't know the Lord's true gender. But now, you can't ignore it. The Lord was raised as a man, but she is not a man after all. If the news that Jianghu was a woman was suddenly revealed, no matter how carefree they were, they could not accept it immediately. This news was too shocking. However, Jianghu had given them a heads-up beforehand and given them enough buffer time, so the impact was not great. Feng Zhen and Yang Si weren't people who liked to get stuck in a dead end. On the contrary, due to their temperaments, these two people were very receptive. It wasn't that they couldn't accept reality, it was just that the truth destroyed their worldview. However, since she was the master that he had chosen, he had to support her to the end even if he had to kneel down. As Feng Zhen listened to Yang Si's words, he felt that something was amiss. There was more to it than meets the eye. Yang Jingrong, what do you mean? Yang Si snorted. I don't mean anything else. I just want to remind you to pay attention to your words and actions. Just now, your conversation with the Lord was very inappropriate. Feng Zisher, recall your conversation with the Lord just now. Is it appropriate? If the Lord was a man, it would be fine if you teased him a little. It was harmless, and the world would not criticize you. But now, since you know that she is a woman, you should know to avoid arousing suspicion and pay attention to the rules between men and women. Our Lord is still young and her temperament is uncertain. Don't lead a good seedling astray. Feng Zhen had a shocked expression on his face. He looked at Yang Si with sympathy in his eyes. We have a responsibility to care for people with cerebral palsy. Feng Zhen looked unconvinced. Yang Jingrong, you're wrongly accusing me. Do you think that a playboy who is familiar with the code words of the brothel, who is good at flirting with prostitutes, who drinks like water, and who hums flirtatious songs can be a decent seedling? It had long grown crooked. Even if I lead him astray, it's my Lord who leads the innocent and pure me astray, not the other way around. In terms of skill level, I'm not even as good as my Lord. It was fine to say that he was unrestrained, but he couldn't just throw the blame to him. His private life was indeed not good, but he was not a person without integrity. Was he the one who instigated the Lord to act like a romantic gentleman? Doesn't the person who said this feel a pang of conscience? Yang Si snorted coldly. Even the corners of his eyes were filled with obvious doubts. Feng Zhen was filled with anger. He was about the same age as Yang Si and could be considered to be of the same generation. But now, Yang Si had grabbed him by the ear and lectured him. Feng Zhen was also angry. Yang Jingrong, do you think you're raising a daughter? With Lord's character, why would she need me to teach her? Yang Si was about to retort when Feng Zhen quickly said, don't object to it. According to my understanding of my Lord, if you deliberately emphasize the need to keep a distance between men and women, it will only make her unhappy. You're experienced enough to know the taboo of a person in a superior position. Don't break the taboo. To put it bluntly, whether my Lord is a man or a woman, what difference does it make to people like us? Don't be obsessed. He was still a single dog, yet he was acting like a loving father and treating his Lord like a daughter. Was there something wrong with Yang Si's brain? Actually, Yang Si just wanted Feng Zhen to rein in his attitude, but this fellow just had to turn the tables on him. Yang Si wanted to hit someone when he heard this. You're twisting words and forcing logic. He glared at Feng Zhen. Do you think I don't know the taboo that you've mentioned? I'm not asking you to rein in your behavior because I want you to be estranged from my Lord or make her unhappy. I'm only thinking about my Lord's reputation. Do you understand this painstaking effort? You don't care about your reputation. Do you want to tarnish my Lord's reputation after 100 years? How can a ruler not be a ruler and a minister not be a minister? Yang Si was so angry that his balls hurt. He really wanted to press Feng Zhen into the snow and make this fellow listen to his lecture. Feng Zhen pursed his lips. He really didn't care about her reputation. His Lord was also a pragmatic person who didn't care about empty reputations. Seeing his behavior, Yang Si was both angry and amused. Did you study for so many years for nothing? Back then, Emperor Taizu of Xia put Duke Su in an important position, and the relationship between the ruler and his minister was deep. It was originally a beautiful story, but look at how those despicable unofficial histories are written. How many unofficial histories of later generations have fabricated stories to slander their romantic relationship? The Su family of Zhe County has been criticized. It's rumored that they have the royal blood of the Xia dynasty running through their veins. Haven't you heard of it? Back then, Emperor Taizu of Xia was a heroic man, and Duke Su was an extraordinary woman, but they were still criticized and slandered by the world. Now, my lord is a woman, and most of her ministers are men. The criticism they receive will only be more severe. If you don't want to add a romantic debt to later generations, then go ahead and do it. It's just that you're a prodigal son. Don't implicate my lord and let her be criticized along with you. If you still don't understand, I won't say any more. Fengzhen couldn't refute. He and Yang Si were both people who didn't bother about trifles, but they were different. Fengzhen completely let go of his restraints and didn't care about his image and reputation. Yang Si was the type who was inwardly coquettish and flirted in secret. He was very serious on the surface. Who can control the mouths of the people in the world? Fengzhen felt a little guilty and lacked confidence. Yang Si replied, I can't control the mouths of the people in the world, but I can control your actions and words. I can keep an eye on you at all times. Fengzhen was like a frosted eggplant, dispirited and listless. He didn't know that he would be so unlucky to be partnered with Yang Si. If he had known earlier, he would have rather partnered with Feng Jin or Wei Ci. At least they were gentle and easy to deal with. Do you think that the others will be very surprised if they know about this? Yang Si said, I don't know if they will be surprised or not, but they will definitely be shocked. His majestic and heroic lord had turned into a delicate woman in a single night. Who could withstand such a huge shock? She threw the task of setting up camp to the two strategists. Jiang Pengji was a hands-off shopkeeper and had nothing to do. She sat opposite Lu Shi and brewed tea and wine. They asked and answered questions to understand the power of the alliance. As the two of them answered more and more, the audience in the streaming room had a general understanding of the power of the alliance meeting. The more they understood, the more disappointed they were. Huang Xiaotian, a man of few words, what a pity. I thought the streamer would be in the limelight this time and become the leader of the alliance. This bullet screen represented the thoughts of the majority of the audience. They had already moved their small stools and sat down to watch the streamer carry the entire scene. What happened in the end? The streamer told them that she was going to take a break midway. She sat in the substitute seat and watched a group of young fresh meats fight fiercely. Chapter 688. Pure and kind Zhang Xinjie, I think it's impossible to be the leader. The chances are very small, infinitely close to zero. Who asked the streamer and her father to have such a tacit understanding that both father and daughter had brought a small number of soldiers? A mere 30,000 troops could only ensure that they had a certain amount of authority in the alliance army and would not be reduced to a mere background. It was difficult to control the entire situation. As for the Su brothers, Su Bei and Su Fei, they were like the Yuan brothers from the Three Kingdoms period. They were the true leaders of the alliance army. If they were really talented and not the kind of mediocre people who switched from arrogance to deference and had eyes but failed to see, the possibility of the host father and son being promoted was very small. It was more realistic to daydream about becoming an alliance leader. After all, this was a place where fists did the talking. The Su brothers were very young and inexperienced, but they held great weight in the alliance. As a fan of streamers, many viewers felt that there was a psychological gap, but reality was reality, and streamers could not go against the heavens and the earth. Honest and loyal Yibushio, #smokes, can anyone be the alliance leader? Have you forgotten how big Dongqing's territory is? The host and his son have already occupied 2 states and Hu County, which is similar to a municipality today. They are in the limelight and are feared by others. If they were to fight for the useless chief position, the disadvantages would outweigh the advantages. They might even get themselves killed. What if the Alliance army has ulterior motives and secretly forms a small alliance to attack the host father and son? Right now, they only had 30,000 soldiers and horses in their hands. They were very weak. Hand speed expert Yu Wenzhou, the host's goal isn't to become the leader of the alliance. She's here to recruit talents and promote her business. What's wrong with the alliance leader? It was just an empty title. If it was emperor, it would be worth it for the host to fight for it. There were gains and losses. It was not the best to gain the upper hand and be in the limelight. Little did they know that making a fortune in silence was the way of the king. I prefer to watch a wolf in sheep's clothing. At first, Lu Shi was worried that his daughter would be unhappy, but after talking to her, he realized that she really didn't care about her reputation. The one who has the last laugh is the winner. Jiang Pengji snorted and said calmly, "The process is important, but it's not as important as the result." Lu Shi was very pleased. "It's great that you think that way. I'm relieved." Feng Zhen and Yang Xi's working abilities were commendable. Under their direction, the camp quickly took shape. The first thing to be done was the commander's tent. As soon as she stepped into her new residence, someone came to visit her. It was an old acquaintance. Jiang Pengji looked at Huang Song and asked him in a familiar tone. "Bogart's camp is nearby?" The young man in front of him was a little longer than he remembered. He looked more muscular, and the immaturity on his face had been slowly worn away by time. The visitor was Huang Song, Jiang Pengji's fair-weather friend. They had a good relationship back in Shangjing. "Yeah, I heard that you're here, so I hurriedly asked people to prepare cooked meat and sake. Let's not go home until we're drunk." Jiang Pengji glanced at the young scholar behind Huang Song. She saw that he was secretly frowning, and his expression was slightly displeased. "That's right, it's really a headache to have a lord who won't leave until she's drunk and can't hold her liquor well." Jiang Pengji bluntly exposed Huang Song's lame lie. "Come on, do you think I don't know what you're planning? You knew I was coming, but you just dragged your feet and refused to come. I'm here now because I can't delay any longer, am I right?" Huang Song's face was bitter, but he did not show any embarrassment at being exposed. "Lu Lanting, your mouth is still so harsh, and your words are like knives." Jiang Pengji crossed her arms in front of her chest. "If you don't want me to be harsh, then don't talk like an official in front of me. Tell me the truth." "Alright, the truth is, I felt that your tent hasn't been set up yet, so I didn't want to sit on the ground and eat meat and drink with you. That's why I delayed coming." Huang Song's answer made Qing Jing's frown deepen, and deep wrinkles appeared on his face. "I've told you the truth. You should let me into your tent, right? You're so talkative. Come in." Jiang Pengji glanced at Qing Jing to see his reaction, then welcomed them into the tent. The tent was very simple. There were only mats for people to sit on, and other than that, there were no other decorations. The three of them sat down. Huang Song asked the guards to set up the table and took out the food from the food box. The cooked meat on the plate had been cut into slices. The slices were still steaming, and they did not smell fishy. Jiang Pengji still spoke in a mocking tone. "The alliance troops are stationed at a place with 400,000 people, but we can still eat meat." Huang Song did not understand. He thought that Jiang Pengji was disgusted, and he felt rather ashamed. "I should do my best as a host and entertain Brother Lu. It's a pity that the snow hasn't melted yet, and the livestock are hiding in their nests. There are no other living creatures for me to eat. When spring comes, the prey will be plump, and I'll hunt a few more for Brother Lu." Qing Jing felt the urge to facepalm. It was definitely his illusion that his lord was so silly and adorable. Jiang Pengji could not help but laugh. She knew that Huang Song was trying to be clever, but she did not expose him. "That's not what I meant. Biyao, don't misunderstand. The alliance troops have 400,000 troops. How much food can they eat every day? I thought that if the army stationed here, they would at least be at the level where all the birds would disappear, even if they didn't eat the ground and the roots. Thanks to you, I can still eat meat." Huang Song was speechless. Brother Lu's words are reasonable, but the meat you're eating now was secretly reared by me. I'm preparing it for a sumptuous meal when I'm hungry. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have wanted to eat it so early. Look at how good I am to you. I even gave you my secret stash. Jiang Pengji and Huang Song were fair-weather friends. They were not close friends, but they were not strangers either. They had no scruples when they talked at the table. As for Qingjing, he ate silently, drank silently, and watched the two old drivers drift and race in silence. It felt like the door to a new world had been opened. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Huang Song picked his teeth as if there was no one else around and asked Jiang Pengji. Brother Lu, I heard that you only brought 10,000 troops with you. Isn't that not enough? Jiang Pengji said indifferently, is 10,000 troops too little? If it's not enough, doesn't my father have 20,000? Huang Song hurriedly waved his hands. There was a hint of probing in his words. I didn't mean that. I'm just thinking about Brother Lu's temperament. He's always liked to join in the fun and be in the limelight. Now, many of Dongqing's heroes and forces have gathered here to prepare for the rescue of the king, kill the rebels, and protect the country. This is a good opportunity to make a name for yourself. Brother Lu, don't you want to play big and be in the limelight? The two were fair-weather friends, but their temperaments were compatible and they were quite familiar with each other. When she asked this question, it was 70% probing mixed with 30% concern. Chapter 689. Huang Song nodded as he listened. He obviously believed Jiang Pengji's words. No matter how much he criticized her in his heart, at least he believed her on the surface. Qingjing, who was beside him, was not so easily fooled. In his opinion, even if Jiang Pengji was not lying, she was not lying. She had conquered Qingde County in half a month. Such swift actions were enough for Qingjing to view her as a great enemy. After saying this, Jiang Pengji asked him a question. Biyao, are you interested in the position of alliance leader? Brother Lu, don't laugh at me. How am I worthy of being the alliance leader? Huang Song laughed bitterly, his tone self-deprecating. Jiang Pengji said, why do you belittle yourself? You are the chief of a county and have tens of thousands of troops under your command. Why not? Why not? Of course not. If he could be the alliance leader with such little qualifications, who knew how many people would fight for him? Although Huang Song was ambitious, he could see reality and his own strength clearly. He did not have that kind of arrogance that was higher than the sky. He knew it was impossible for him to become the alliance leader, but he could find a way to maximize the benefits. I am ashamed. Brother Lu thinks highly of me, but with my meager strength, I will only be laughed at by the heroes. The two drank and drank. Because Huang Song was a good talker, the atmosphere did not turn cold. As the conversation went deeper, they began to talk about the various factions within the alliance. Jiang Pengji listened carefully. She had heard a lot from Lu Shi and wanted to dig out more information from Huang Song. Huang Song said, other than the Su brothers, I think there are two other families worth paying attention to. Which two? Jiang Pengji asked him. Huang Song said, one is the chief of Shanghai County, Wumashang. The other is the military chief of Jiangzhou Dongmen County, Yang Jian. In my opinion, these two are one of the few pure-hearted forces in the alliance that are willing to protect the emperor. The military chief of Shanghai County, Wumashang, is second only to the Su brothers. The military chief of Dongmen County, Yang Jian, has no more than 15,000 troops, but from what I know, this is all he has. This shows his sincerity. When Jiang Pengji heard these two names, she seemed to be deep in thought. Wumashang, just from the name, I know he is a relative of the royal family. Let's not talk about him. Then who is this Yang Jian? More importantly, Yang Jian was from Jiangzhou's Eastgate County. Jiangzhou was Prince Changshuo's fief. Huang Song smiled as he explained, the county chief of Hu County, Wumashang, is indeed from a branch of the royal family. He can be considered a relative. In terms of seniority, he is the uncle of the emperor and Prince Changsho. As for Dongmen Commandant Yang Jian, he doesn't have any special background, but I like his temperament. This person's temperament was open-minded, and he was heroic and righteous. Although he looked crude and careless, he was actually very meticulous. Jianghu was Prince Changsho's fief. It looked rich on the surface, but in reality, it was a chaotic place. Prince Changsho used other reasons to cover up the incidents of water bandits robbing and killing the people, pretending to be peaceful. Only Yang Jian's personality was unyielding and unyielding. It was said that he dared to raise his sword at the age of 17 and led his troops, who were good at swimming, to deal with the water bandits. He fought valiantly and often disregarded life and death. Now that he has made a name for himself, he can be considered a hero. Jiang Pengji pinched her chin. From what you've said, Biyao seems to like Yang Jian a lot. Huang Song said calmly, of course I want to befriend such a heroic figure. It's just that. At this point, Huang Song's expression darkened. He felt slightly ashamed and didn't continue. Even if he didn't say it, the two people in the tent understood what he meant. There was no point in saying it. However, he didn't know that apart from Jiang Pengji and Qingjing, there were 150,000 onlookers. These people didn't understand. Blackberry can, I'm confused. What's next? Huang Tao can, same question. What's next? Pomelo can, there's nothing more. This damned eunuch. He pretended to be mysterious halfway through his speech. Annoying, annoying, annoying. Jiang Pengji looked at the bullet screen full of eunuch and there's nothing more. She held back her laughter in pain. Host V, the alliance is meeting here. They are here to suppress Prince Changsho, but this Yang Jian is from Jianghu. Jianghu is Prince Changsho's fief, so their relationship is more sensitive. If I'm not wrong, Yang Jian should have been declared independent by the alliance. Huang Song wants to befriend him, but the situation doesn't allow it. If he befriends Yang Jian, it's equivalent to making enemies for himself. Huang Song won't do such a thing. After her explanation, the comments on the screen changed again. Wei Weian, Huang Song is too cowardly. Why worry so much? If he wants to befriend him, then befriend him. Why does he have to avoid arousing suspicion? Susui Lionian, I think Huang Song is right. Yang Jian is isolated by the whole group. If he brazenly befriends him, he'll definitely be ostracized by the whole group. He'll even implicate Yang Jian. This doesn't fit Huang Song's character. There are many ways to express goodwill. Huang Song is a smart man. Offering help in times of need is much better than adding icing on the cake. If there's a war, Yang Jian might be thrown out by the alliance as cannon fodder. When that happens, Huang Song can lend a helping hand. This is better than befriending him. Hacker Wen Xiang Pian, to the person above, please accept my respect. Hacker Dian Wen Xiang Pian, the type of streamer attracts the type of audience. I feel like the average IQ of the streaming room is getting higher and higher. Jiang Pengji was very composed. After so many years, she had long developed the habit of ignoring the bullet screen and not being affected by it. She comforted Huang Song. Biyao, don't be disappointed. It's fine if you secretly befriend Yang Jian. There's no need to announce it to the world. Wasn't there a saying that went, showing off your love will lead to a quick death? Huang Song didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Who would comfort someone like that? This person's choice of words was still so amusing. It made people laugh and cry. Words that were originally proper, but when they came out of this person's mouth, they always had a strange tint to them. Huang Song said that they wouldn't go home until they were drunk. Jiang Pengji didn't feel bad about it. Anyway, it wasn't her wine. It would be a waste not to drink it. In the end, the tent reeked of alcohol. Huang Song was already paralyzed on the ground like a puddle of mud. His face was burning red, and he was delirious. On the other hand, Jiang Pengji's wine jars were no less than Huang Song's. She still looked sober, but her eyes were shimmering with tears. Huang Song hugged the wine jars in a daze. He stammered, I can, still, drink. Biyao's alcohol tolerance isn't good. Tell him to drink less in the future. Although the war hasn't started yet, this is still an important military camp. He should remain sober at all times. He shouldn't drink too much to prevent it from affecting his sanity. Jiang Pengji glanced at Qingjing, whose expression was normal and unchanging. She said in a lazy tone, look at how drunk he is. I'll send someone to send him back. What do you think, teacher? Looking at Qingjing's stature, Jiang Pengji really doubted that he could successfully drag Huang Song back. Qingjing bowed with his hands in front of his chest. Thank you for your kindness, District Magistrate Lu. I thank you on behalf of my lord. Biyao and I are good friends. You don't have to be so polite. When she finished speaking, she shouted for the soldiers to support Huang Song and send him back to his own tent. She got up and sent Huang Song and Qingjing out of the tent. She looked at the few figures in the distance and frowned. Chapter 690. Before he even got close, he could smell the strong scent of alcohol on Jiang Pengji. Why did my lord drink so much? She said, Huang Song is here. If I don't accept the wine that was delivered to my doorstep, wouldn't it be a great loss? Fengzhen nodded and didn't dwell on this topic. He didn't come to listen to his lord talk about how he had taken advantage of her. My lord, you should quickly go to the drill ground. Han Mei has gotten into an argument with someone. Han Mei? Got into an argument with someone? She knew every word of this sentence, but when put together, she couldn't understand it. Han Mei has such a good temper, why would he get into an argument with someone for no reason? And it even went to the drill ground? Li Yun was known as a little angel. When they heard that he had gotten into an argument, many people's first reaction was that the other party had a nasty mouth and was the one who provoked him first. Although Jiang Pengji wasn't blind, she was still biased towards her own people. Li Yun was the group's favorite. He was equally good-looking as Wei Ci. If Jiang Pengji wasn't biased towards her own people, would she be biased towards outsiders who bullied them? Fengzhen didn't seem to be anxious. Obviously, this matter wasn't serious. This can't be explained in a short time. My lord, let's talk as we walk. Fengzhen was afraid that Li Yun would be at a disadvantage, so he hurried over to ask for help. His lord's combat ability was off the charts. How could ordinary people fight against her? At that moment, Fengzhen completely forgot that his lord was a girl. When he finally realized it, his expression was a little conflicted. It wasn't that he didn't want to remember his lord's gender, but his lord's actions were too manly. It was too much of an act. Jiang Pengji didn't say much and said, lead the way. The camp hadn't been set up yet, and she didn't have a drill ground here. The drill ground that Fengzhen mentioned was in the camp of another power. Along the way, Jiang Pengji saw that the tents were arranged neatly. The soldiers looked imposing and had the aura of a valiant army. She swept her gaze across and frowned slightly. These people are from the south, right? Look at them, they seem to be good swimmers. Fengzhen was already familiar with Jiang Pengji's observation skills, so he wasn't surprised. My lord is wise. This is the camp of the military chief of Jiangzhou's Dongmen County. These people are all elite soldiers who are proficient in land and water. I heard that this person has 10,000 elites under him, and they are all able to fight in the waves. Once he's in the water, he'll be able to take on 10 opponents at once. When Jiang Pengji heard this, she stopped in her tracks and turned her head to look at Fengzhen. Don't you know that Yang Jian is being ostracized? Fengzhen smiled. Becoming enemies is not becoming friends. Outsiders can't find fault with it. Jiang Pengji had some suspicions. Could it be that Fengzhen had purposely asked Li Yun to scam him? Otherwise, how could it be such a coincidence that they had a conflict with Yang Jian's people? Fengzhen understood Jiang Pengji's expression and said righteously, my lord, there are very few people in this world who are as open and aboveboard as I am. Why would I deliberately set up a trap to frame others? Even if I had such intentions, I wouldn't have chosen Han Mei. That brat lacked a heart and wasn't suited for this kind of heart-wrenching work. This time, it was truly a coincidence. If my lord doesn't believe me, I have nothing to say. Who would believe it? Jiang Pengji whispered to him. I can't believe everything you say, but I can't ignore it either. Tell me, what are you planning? Feng Zhen shamelessly agreed, not feeling the slightest bit ashamed. My lord is participating in the alliance meeting for business and for talents. Business has yet to materialize, but talents should be put on the agenda. Jiang Pengji said, then tell me, who have you taken a fancy to? Yang Jian has a centurion under his command. His appearance is a little ugly, a little unique, but his appearance isn't a problem. What's more important is that he's an excellent swimmer. I secretly watched him train his troops and discovered that he has a lot of ideas and is quick-witted. His training methods are different from ordinary people and can't be considered mainstream. Plus, his appearance isn't good, so he hasn't been put in an important position. Feng Zhen tucked his hands into his sleeves. He was so cold that he wanted to shiver, but he still held on. Seeing this, Jiang Pengji tossed her hot water bottle to him to warm his hands. You're a man, but you're even more delicate than a young lady. Feng Zhen said, more delicate than a young lady? That depends on who that young lady is. His lord was bold and unrestrained. Was there a man in this world who was more manly than her? After a while, Feng Zhen asked her hesitantly, would my lord despise someone for being ugly? If she neglected a talent because of his appearance, Feng Zhen was worried that it would incur resentment. Hearing this, Jiang Pengji snorted. Have I ever despised you? Feng Zhen was speechless. Damn, he couldn't go on like this. I'm asking a serious question. If my lord doesn't despise that person's ugly appearance, I'll find him for you. Jiang Pengji also answered seriously, for your lord, those who have limbs, brains, and can work are people. Can being good-looking be used to make a living? As for those who are good-looking but are as mentally retarded as 3-year-olds, they're not even worthy of being a pretty face. Speaking of good-looking, who can be more pleasing to the eye than Zixiao? If you think that person is useful, you can try to get in touch with him. But you have to consider Yang Jian's opinion, lest you become enemies. For her, appearance had never been a plus. Good-looking people were pleasing to the eye, but if they weren't practical, she would reject them. Beauties who couldn't work and weren't as beautiful as Wei Ci were useless vases to her. They even took up space. With Jiang Pengji's affirmation, Feng Zhen calmed down and thought about how to abduct a talent. Jiang Pengji thought of a detail and asked Feng Zhen. Although troop training isn't a secret, not everyone can watch it. How did you sneak into Yang Jian's camp? If she couldn't sneak into Yang Jian's camp, how could she watch him train his troops? How could she discover talents? Feng Zhen casually said, you know what it means to be a good friend. Jiang Pengji then remembered that Feng Zhen was also from Jiangzhou's Anshan County. Anshan County and Dongmen County bordered each other. Feng Zhen had no boundaries. Every day, he was either drinking in the tavern, gambling in the casino, hugging the courtesans in the brothel, or fooling around with his friends. Therefore, Feng Zhen had a wide variety of friends. It wasn't strange that he had a member of the Jian tribe among them. Jiang Pengji was speechless. Feng Zhen wasn't ashamed of it. Instead, he felt proud. He had friends all over the world. Was he afraid? Jiang Pengji crossed her arms. That's a pity. Just now, Huang Song brought Qingjing to visit. Qingjing and Feng Zhen were friends. They got to know each other through Wei Ci. Although they hadn't met, they admired each other's talents and appreciated each other's talents. In more modern terms, they were pen pals. They hadn't met in person yet. Hearing Qingjing's name, Feng Zhen's expression changed slightly. He said, he won't run away. There's no hurry to meet him. As they spoke, the two arrived at the drill ground. The edge of the drill ground was surrounded by 3 layers of people. Shouts and shouts could be heard from the crowd, their voices like thunder. General, defeat him. General is mighty. Chapter 691. Jiang Pengji was about to squeeze in, but Fengzhen was already one step ahead of her. He laboriously used his small body to clear a path. My lord is different from others. How can you allow your precious body to clash with a commoner? Although Fengzhen was talkative, he took Yang Xi's words to heart. What precious body? It's just a body made up of flesh and bones. Your lord isn't made of glass. It won't break so easily. Jiang Pengji understood his good intentions, but it was really unnecessary. She was willing to reveal her identity and gender, not to get special treatment. You and Jing Rong should also talk about it. There's no need to be so careful. It's uncomfortable. Just do as usual. Fengzhen lowered his eyes and agreed, still using his body to shield her from the others. Only then did he have the extra energy to pay attention to the drill ground. There were two familiar faces on the drill ground, one was Li Yun, the other was Dian Yen. Jiang Pengji frowned. Why was Dian Yen here? Was this related to Dian Yen? Fengzhen said, My lord, you might not believe me when I say this, but they were the ones who tried to poach me first. Jiang Pengji was speechless. Fengzhen explained the whole story. Dian Yen was a good student who was eager to learn. Ever since he joined Jiang Pengji's loving group, he felt the disparity between him and the others. From martial arts to knowledge, he seemed to be seriously biased towards other subjects. On one hand, he studied humbly, and on the other hand, he did not neglect his martial arts. According to his usual practice, he should have practiced martial arts for 2 hours. However, the drill ground had not been cleaned up yet, so he found a secluded place to practice martial arts. He did not expect to be seen by outsiders. That person was one of Yang Jian's subordinates, and he valued talents as much as his life. He felt that Dian Yen was tall and valiant, and seeing that he was wearing a shabby hemp garment with patches on it, he thought that he was a useless soldier. Naturally, he had the idea of recruiting him. Yang Jian's troops were good at fighting on the water. They weren't bad at fighting on land, but that was still their weakness. If Dian Yen joined, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. He had just expressed his intentions when Li Yun, the honest child, came. When that person saw Li Yun's face, it was as if he had suffered a great shock. Without saying anything further, he started to fight. Cat pancakes? Li Yun knew the severity of the situation. This was where the Alliance army was stationed. If he killed anyone, it might cause trouble for his lord. Angel Han Mei's marksmanship was outstanding. Even Jiang Pengji had to take him seriously. Even if he only defended and did not attack, he could still firmly suppress his opponent. The two of them had different mentalities. Li Yun was as calm as water, without any ripples, while his opponent became more anxious and irritable, full of openings. Li Yun found an opportunity and knocked his opponent's weapon away. He pierced the man's armpit with his long spear and tied his hands behind his back. At that moment, the man's personal guards had also called for reinforcements. The one leading them was none other than the commandant of Dongmen Prefecture, Yang Jian. As soon as he saw Li Yun's face, even Yang Jian, who was already middle-aged, felt a moment of fear. He blurted, "What's your relationship with Xie Qian? Master's old enemy?" Li Yun's heart skipped a beat. He lowered his head and glanced at his opponent, who was unwilling to budge. He pressed the center of gravity of the spear in his hand down and firmly restrained his opponent. "Xie Qian is my master." Yang Jian was a middle-aged man in his 40s. His body was strong and well-built, and his facial features were well-defined. His eyes were clear and bright, as if they were flowing with golden light. One look and you could tell that he was a righteous and awe-inspiring man. He was tall, and when he took a step, his stride was half the size of a normal person's. After listening to Li Yun's explanation, he asked, "You're not biological father and son?" Li Yun pursed his lips, his eyes fixed on Yang Jian. He had heard similar words from his lord's father, Lu Shi. Lu Shi had also said that he was Xie Qian's biological son. Yun and my master are so similar. Liyun was curious. Yang Jian replied, you and him are practically carved from the same mold. The resemblance is uncanny. It wasn't entirely accurate to say that they were identical. Xie Qian's appearance leaned towards being tough. Even though he was dressed in a scholarly robe, he still exuded the aura of a martial artist. Liyun's appearance was more like a gentler version of Xie Qian. He was handsome without peer, gentle without losing his masculinity. It was more in line with the aesthetics of ordinary people. You're familiar with my master? Liyun still didn't dare to let go of the man under his control. This fellow was still struggling on his deathbed. The eyes that looked at Liyun were filled with malice. Liyun had never met this person before, let alone become enemies. Hence, it was easy for him to guess who this resentment was directed at. We could be considered friends in the past. We made friends through martial arts. No discord, no concord. Yang Jian laughed heartily, not minding Liyun's impoliteness in the slightest. We could be considered friends in the past. In other words, they were now enemies and not friends. It was no wonder that Yang Jian's subordinates drew their weapons and started fighting the moment they saw him. If it wasn't for Liyun's solid martial arts skills, he might have been severely injured in a single exchange. Yang Jian asked, how are your parents? You're so young. Are they at ease letting you roam the world? He couldn't detect any malice. This confused Liyun. Did Yang Jian think that his parents were his master and his wife? Liyun replied, my master is already traveling around Zhongzhou. He said that he had important matters to attend to. His wife passed away during childbirth. She's no longer around. When Yang Jian heard this, his expression turned fearful. A man of steel like him actually revealed the melancholy of a young man. She's already passed away? Yang Jian sighed. His expression returned to normal. Right, I haven't asked for your name. What is it? This junior's surname is Li. My given name is Yun. My courtesy name is Hanmei. Yang Jian didn't have any malice. Liyun also gave him face and didn't embarrass him. Liyun? Yang Jian was surprised. The surname wasn't right. Xie Qian's son didn't have the surname Xie. His gaze fell on the subordinate who was subdued by Liyun. He felt rather embarrassed. It was one thing to fall in love with a goddess but lose to Xie Qian. But at such an advanced age, he still couldn't beat his son. How embarrassing. This person, he's your subordinate? Liyun pursed his lips, indicating for Yang Jian to look at the person he had subdued. Yang Jian's face turned red. Coupled with his beautiful beard, if the audience in the streaming room saw him, they might think that he was cosplaying as Second Master Guan. My subordinate has offended you. I apologize on his behalf. When he finished speaking, Yang Jian actually bowed with his hands clasped in front. His attitude was very sincere. Liyun couldn't care less about the silver spear in his hand. He hurriedly let go and went forward to help the person up. Now that the person was free, he immediately jumped up and wanted to sneak an attack from behind. However, he forgot that Dian Yen was watching him from the side. Dian Yen raised his leg and kicked the person's manhood. The person fell forward and fell flat on his face. Bah! What kind of hero is he to stab someone in the back? Dian Yan's voice was loud and he didn't bother to lower his voice. Yang Jian and the others who heard him blushed and felt even more guilty. Liyun's expression was displeased. He asked Yang Jian, do you know why this person kept sneaking up on me? Yang Jian's face turned even redder. He was ashamed and embarrassed. He was a little embarrassed and embarrassed. He lowered his voice and explained, he admired your mother's talent and fell in love with her at first sight. He didn't expect that your mother and father had already been married for a few months and that she was pregnant. Of course, he couldn't express his love rashly. In the end, his courtship failed and he was beaten up by your father. He didn't get what he wanted and was beaten up. It hurt his pride. After so many years, he still can't get over it. His shattered little heart couldn't be glued back together. Chapter 692. Was he a love rival who had been beaten by master? Even so, this person wouldn't want to kill him the moment he saw him, right? Jianghu could not understand it either. It was a godly theory. There are so many idiots in this world who have been rejected by the fair, rich, and beautiful girls. It can't be that every single one of them wants to kill the son of a tall, rich, and handsome man, right? Little angel Li Yun was innocent. The storyteller, Fengzhen, looked at his master resentfully. Don't speak bird language that normal mortals can't understand. Jianghu coughed softly and said, if that's the case, there won't be a need to fight, right? Fengzhen continued, that is indeed the case. However, there were other arguments after that. That person actually started a rumor and slandered Han Mei's mother and father. Han Mei couldn't take it anymore and beat him up. Even though he was injured, he was still stubborn and didn't hold back his words. Han Mei was furious and wanted to make a move. Yang Jian had many people on his side. How could he just sit back and watch? He opened the gates. Slander? What kind of slander could make Li Yun, who had always been calm, lose his rationality and hurt someone? Fengzhen said, that person spread the rumor that Xie Qian was not a man. He actually pushed his wife to another man for the benefit of his family. Jianghu asked. What's going on? Back then, Lu Shi had told her the story of Xie Qian and Wang Huiyun. The husband and wife were a talented man and a beautiful woman. They were a match made in heaven. In layman's terms, this couple's public display of affection was so deranged that it made people want to raise a torch and burn them to ashes. Such a loving couple, how could there be a melodramatic plot where the man pushed the woman to another man? Moreover, Lu Shi had also said that Wang Huiyun had been replaced by someone else after giving birth to Li Yun. In other words, the Wang Huiyun after Li Yun's birth was just an impostor. Fengzhen sighed, using words to reconstruct the scene. Yang Jian had originally wanted to be the peacemaker and cover up this incident. Little did he know that Xie Qian's wife's admirer wouldn't let it go. He had been taught a lesson by Li Yun, and his mouth was still stiff. He said unwillingly, where is that coward Xie Qian? Li Yun was deeply in love with his master, Xie Qianru. Others could slander Li Yun, but they could never slander Xie Qianru. Say that again? Be careful or I'll cut off your tongue. My master is a dignified man with an indomitable spirit. How could he be a coward? The other party mocked, how are you not a coward? Yang Jian's eyebrows twitched. He hurriedly ordered the retainers behind him to retreat 20 paces. If Xie Qian wasn't a coward, why would he sell his wife for wealth? Li Yun's eyes widened in anger as he clenched the silver spear in his hand. Due to excessive force, his knuckles turned from white to blue. My master loved his wife deeply. Ever since she died in childbirth, he has never remarried. Not only that, they have to offer them fragrant fruits every day, and they have to abstain from eating for 3 days before and after the Memorial Day. The two of them are deeply in love with each other, and can be regarded as role models. You despicable person, don't slander their innocence. Li Yun had an expression that said, if you keep spouting nonsense, I'll stab you to death with my spear. The other party didn't back down and continued to mock him. Deep love? Died from dystocia? What a joke. More than 10 years ago, I met her by chance. She was alive and well. She told me that it was Xie Qian who had sold his wife for glory and forced her to give herself to another man. How could he do such an animal thing? You call him a man? Tell me, where is Xie Qian? Ask him to come out and confront me. Li Yun was stunned. The other party spoke with such conviction that it didn't seem like he was lying. However, he still defended his master. The little princess liked to defend him without thinking. If you don't like it, then fight. Ridiculous, my master is from the Xie family of Jiangming. Why would he need to sell his wife for glory? He didn't know Xie Qian's background. After all, his master didn't tell him about such a noble background. However, when they were in Xiangyang district, Lu Shi had mentioned it before, and Li Yun had always remembered it. The other party couldn't help but choke on his words. He almost couldn't respond. After a while, he said, "So what if he's from the Xia family of Jiangning? Wouldn't the Xia family of Jiangning be scum who would sell his wife for glory?" Yang Jian couldn't help but facepalm. Of course, the Xia family of Jiangning wouldn't be scum who would sell his wife for glory. In layman's terms, they were the second most powerful of the four noble families in Dongqing. Most of their clansmen were versed in both literature and martial arts. Xie Qian was the young leader of his generation. His status was high, and he even dared to look down on the emperor. Whether it was the emperor or Prince Changshu, who could make Xie Qian abandon his beloved wife and his dignity as a man to push his wife to another man? Moreover, when his subordinate met Wang Huiyun, news of Xie Qian's death had already been heard for 3 to 4 years. There was something fishy about this. Yang Jian had admonished this subordinate more than once, but this person just wouldn't turn back until he hit the wall. When his stubbornness flared up, he couldn't be stopped. "You're simply being unreasonable. If you slander my master again, I'll make sure your blood splatters 3 feet high." Li Yun was so angry that his cheeks turned red. His eyes were bloodshot, and his anger level was about to explode. "Humph, do you think I'm afraid of you? Even if Xie Qian came, I'd spit on him to death, let alone a young brat like you." Thus, this foul-mouthed person was taught a lesson by Li Yun. He pierced his left arm with a spear, creating a bloody hole. He wasn't crippled, but now that the alliance meeting was imminent, where would he find the time to let him recuperate? Li Yun's actions had indirectly caused the death of one of Yang Jian's generals. Yang Jian didn't say anything, but his subordinates weren't willing. Even if they weren't willing, Dian Yen wouldn't let Li Yun suffer. Thus, as the commotion continued, the commotion reached the drill ground. "Honest and loyal Yi Buxiu, hey, 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 it's a one-on-one match between father and son. Whoever loses will call him father. Eloquent Zhouzikai, streamer, do you want to give it a try? You can have 8 or 10 sons for free." Jiang Pengji rarely challenged one person to a one-on-one match. Usually, it was a group of people attacking her, while she challenged a group of people. Seeing the audience in the streaming room egging her to challenge someone, she couldn't help but laugh. Streamer v. A match between father and son? If I had such a weak son, I'd be the first to kill my son's father. It'd be a waste of my genes. As soon as she posted the bullet screen, countless people followed suit. Dongguan Chao Dao Pao, this is the highest level of disdain I've ever heard. In the future, if anyone wants to dump the current one, just tell them directly, "I don't despise you for having little money, no house, no job, no savings. It's just that your genes are weak. I'm afraid it'll affect the quality of my offspring." The streamer's words are still so vicious and unkind, but I like this type. "Beautiful goddess, hee, can I ask the streamer for one of your eggs to modify my offspring? I promise I'll only do it and not touch it." Lazy catling, sure, if you're not afraid that the streamer's knee will break your pelvic bone, just ask. Luo peanut candy, ha ha ha, it's not just a pelvic bone, it's obviously a knee that breaks from the pelvic bone to the skull. It had to be said that Jiang Pengji's words were unkind. Her frequent audience members were also sharp-tongued. When the forest was big, there were all kinds of birds. When the streaming room was big, there were all kinds of scum. Jiang Pengji never read those dirty words. Occasionally, there were some discordant comments, but they were instantly drowned by the idle audience's bullet screen. Chapter 693. Zuiwo Shachang Jun and Mo Shao, who's the one fighting with little angel Hanmei? He's so ugly, it's a disgrace to the city. Chui Yubushio, how is it a disgrace to the city? It's obviously a handsome, mature uncle. Look at that muscular body, that beautiful complexion, even the movement of his Adam's apple is so sexy. Those who say he's an eyesore and a disgrace to the city, tell me your house address and I'll send you a razor blade. Those who dared to go topless in the middle of winter were all real men. Jiang Pengji similarly shifted her gaze to Li Yun's opponent. Feng Zhen, who was beside her, said, "That's Yang Jian. That's Yang Jian." I heard others call him the handsome bearded duke, praising his beard for being long and beautiful. I can't tell how he's beautiful. She couldn't understand such aesthetics. To her, a beard was similar to armpit hair, belonging to the category of well-developed and luxuriant body hair. Fengzhen didn't know what she was thinking. He said, "What people say is true." Yang Jian's side wasn't willing to bully others by taking turns, so they simply let Dian Yan and Li Yun take turns. In the end, they were slapped in the face one after another. Not only did Dian Yan have a rough face, but he was also tall and had extraordinary strength. He used brute force to break through technique, causing Yang Jian's side to suffer a lot. However, Dian Yan's flaws were also very obvious. His posture wasn't flexible enough, his moves were too crude, and his movements were wide open. There were many flaws. When encountering an experienced veteran, it was inevitable that he would be at a disadvantage. Li Yun was different. Xie Qian taught him step by step, and he was extremely talented and hardworking. For more than 20 years, he trained hard day and night and finally mastered exquisite spear techniques. His martial arts skills far surpassed those of others. If not for his lack of age and experience, it would be difficult for anyone present to make him suffer. He and Dian Yan joined forces and caused Yang Jian's side to lose a lot of face. Yang Jian originally wanted to watch from the sidelines and let them resolve their grievances, but he couldn't sit still. He had to personally take action to regain some face. Otherwise, if word got out that Yang Jian's subordinates were all weaklings who had been defeated by two young men, he wouldn't be able to keep his face. The morale of his troops would be even lower. It was the middle of winter, but Yang Jian didn't feel the cold at all. He took off his shirt, revealing his strong and muscular upper body. His chest and back were full of intersecting old wounds, some of which were fatal. Just by looking at them, one could imagine a near-death experience. "Commandant Yang, sorry for the offense." Li Yun cupped his fists in a salute and kept his distracting thoughts to focus on dealing with the situation. He did not even notice that his lord was surrounded by the crowd. Yang Jian appeared to be very calm, without a trace of aggression. However, Li Yun did not dare to let his guard down. "I admire young people like you the most. You have the guts to charge in and take risks. That's good. You don't have to worry about my age, just do your best. You said that your spear techniques were taught by your master, then let me see how much of Xie Qian's abilities you have learned. This isn't a life and death situation. Don't overdo it." Li Yun used his spear while Yang Jian used his broadsword. This saber was specially made. The body of the saber was wide and long. The edge of the saber was incomparably sharp and flashed with a cold white light. As the saying goes, the longer one is, the stronger one is. In terms of weapons alone, Li Yun had a definite advantage. However, the moment they clashed, Jiang Pengji could already see the outcome. She clicked her tongue and said, "Han Mei has met his match this time." Fengzhen asked her, "My lord means that Han Mei will lose?" "Not only will he lose, but he'll lose terribly." Jiang Pengji said, "The difference between the two isn't just in experience. Han Mei's rhythm has been led by Yang Jian, leading the world into a trap. Yang Jian is a generation older than Han Mei, but his body is still in peak condition. Han Mei's spear techniques are good, his angles are tricky and nimble, and his strength is strong enough to split the skin between his thumb and forefinger. However, in Yang Jian's eyes, he's too flashy and lacks momentum." Fengzhen's level of swordsmanship was still at the level of a small public square dance class. How could he see anything? He only felt that Li Yun's speed was faster than Yang Jian's, and his weapon was longer, so he definitely had an advantage. Jiang Pengji read his expression and asked him, "Do you really think Yang Jian's speed is slow?" Just as she finished speaking, Yang Jian, who seemed to be suppressed, suddenly made a counterattack. Not only did he avoid Li Yun's spear, but he also used the handle of his saber to hit Li Yun's wrist, causing the spear to fall out of his hand. At the same time, he used the back of his saber to press against Li Yun's neck. His lightning-fast speed and terrifying strength could be retracted and released at will, stopping at will. It made one's emotions fluctuate violently. No matter how fast you are, if you can't subdue or kill your enemy, it's just a flashy performance. Yang Jian seemed to be suppressed, but he was actually looking for Han Mei's weakness. He doesn't need to be fast, he just needs to ensure that he kills Han Mei faster than Han Mei can dodge, and he'll win. On the other end, Li Yun was also frightened to the point of breaking out in a cold sweat. Even though Yang Jian didn't use any killing intent, Li Yun felt as if the King of Hell's judgment pen had swept across his throat. If Yang Jian wanted to, Li Yun's head would fall to the ground and he would lose his life on the spot. Thank you for your guidance, County Military Chief Yang. Yang Jian put away his saber and returned it to its sheath. He said gently, "It's not a bad thing to be young and full of vigor. Hard work is the right path. I can beat you because I'm bullying you. I've eaten more than you by more than 10 years. In short, your martial arts skills are much better than my useless son's. He's still useless, but you're already a valiant general. I'm so envious that Xie Qian's son is so promising. I really can't compare." The fight just now was more like a lesson than a one-on-one fight. Li Yun was the one being taught a lesson. Li Yun was ashamed. After calming down, he realized that he and Dian Yan had indeed gone overboard by humiliating the other party. Personal grudges should not be dragged into official matters and affect the relationship between the two powers. Han Mei. As he was thinking, a familiar voice called out from the crowd. His scalp went numb and he looked over in disbelief. "Greetings, my lord." He and Dian Yan immediately bowed, their hearts filled with guilt. "Who called the lord here? Rise." As she finished speaking, she turned her gaze to the bearded duke, Yang Jian. "I am the district magistrate of Xiangyang district." "Greetings, County Military Chief Yang." Feng Zhen secretly moved closer to Li Yun and Dian Yan, smiling maliciously. "I was afraid that you'd be at a disadvantage, so I called the lord here." Li Yun and Dian Yan threw him a look that said, "You brat, you're trying to get me killed." If the lord knew that they had a private fight with Yang Jian's subordinates and almost ruined the relationship between them, she'd definitely settle the score later. Yang Jian looked at Jiang Pengji and said, "So you're Lu Zhongqing's son. You're indeed a young and talented man with good looks." As he finished speaking, he patted Jiang Pengji's shoulder 3 times with his large, fan-like palm. It was originally a test, but the strength of the first pat was restrained. Jiang Pengji's expression did not change. Yang Jian's heart skipped a beat. The strength of the second and third pat was suddenly increased. If it were an ordinary person, their arm would be dislocated, let alone stand steadily. However, Jiang Pengji's expression was the same as usual. Her small face smiled shyly. One look and it was obvious that she was well behaved. Chapter 694. County Military Chief Yang knows my father. We're all officials, how can we not know each other? Your father managed Hu County and was the county chief. Hu County borders Jiangzhou's Dongmen County. There were several food shortages, so he shamelessly borrowed some rations from your father. Only then did the situation turn for the better, and the people could live in peace. It seemed like there was no enmity between Yang Jian and Lu Shi. The former even owed the latter a favor. If that was the case, things would be easy. If she poached Yang Jian's centurion position, he wouldn't be angry. After a simple greeting, Yang Jian glanced at Li Yun and Dian Yan. "Are these two your subordinates?" Jiang Pengji took the initiative to apologize. "I failed in my duties, allowing Han Mei and the others to offend the county military chief. I will discipline them strictly when I return." Yang Jian also knew that this was just a formality. She said she would discipline them strictly, but at most, she would reprimand them. Don't blame them. Both of them are real men. They are enviable young men. This dispute started on our side. If that person hadn't verbally abused Han Mei, both sides wouldn't have caused such a ruckus on the drill ground. He shouted at the crowd. A middle-aged man with his left arm tied up came over. He was pale from blood loss. "This is your fault. Apologize to District Magistrate Liu." The middle-aged man didn't pester her. He cupped his fists and apologized. At this point, Jiang Pengji couldn't say anything else. This matter could only be written off. However, I watched the county military chief give pointers to Han Mei's martial arts. I deeply admire him. I wonder if I have the honor of receiving pointers from the county military chief. Jiang Pengji's principle was simple. She would pick herself up from where she fell. She would pick herself back from where she suffered. She would seek revenge from where she lost face. After beating up the young, the old would come. How normal was that? Although it wasn't Yang Jian's fault, his subordinate attacked first and verbally abused him. Yang Jian still taught Han Mei a lesson. Since that was the case, it was normal for her to teach Yang Jian a lesson. The audience in the streaming room was in an uproar. The bullet screen flew from one end of the screen to the other. "Mu Xianying marries me, I see that you are heroic. Do you dare to fight me? Mou Zainai bedtime, with such a beautiful scene, why don't we resolve our worries with a battle?" Xia Yuan Shishou. 1 minute later, Yang Jian said with a wronged expression, "I drank a cup of tea just now." Yang Jian wanted to reject her, but when he thought of Jiang Pengji's performance just now, he became interested. "Why not?" Jiang Pengji said shyly, "My skills are crude and I don't want to embarrass myself in public. Can we find a secluded place?" Yang Jian didn't suspect anything. A young man's pride needed to be protected. What if it was broken and couldn't be glued back together? In the end, Jiang Pengji didn't choose a weapon. She planned to fight barehanded. Naturally, Yang Jian couldn't take advantage of her. However, he soon realized that this was a huge mistake. Yang Jian couldn't understand how such a thin and slender body could generate such great power. It was as heavy as a mountain, and one would lose all will to fight for it with just a glance. Although he would not despair, Jiang Pengji's strength was terrifying. Yang Jian could only passively defend and try to find an opening. However, Jiang Pengji wasn't a fresh young man like Li Yun. She was a veteran. She seemed to be full of openings, but in reality, she was full of killing intent. Yang Jian initially thought that he had a chance, but the price he paid was that his arm was almost broken. He jumped away and put some distance between them. He said with lingering fear, "What a good way of pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. You really are your father's son." It was so dark. "You flatter me, county military chief." Jiang Pengji's expression didn't change. She used her hand like a knife and attacked Yang Jian's face. Yang Jian's heart sank. He raised his hand to block her wrist. At the same time, he adjusted his center of gravity and squatted to avoid the incoming palm wind that swept across his face. "With your martial arts, how does it look like I'm asking for advice?" Not only did he not find an opportunity, but he was also being suppressed by Jiang Pengji. Her palms were so dense that they left afterimages. Just looking at them sent a chill down his spine. "Of course I'm asking for advice, but it's not me asking for advice from county military chief. No matter what, Han Mei is still my subordinate. Hitting him is the same as hitting me." Jiang Pengji didn't choose to spar with him in front of others. Instead, she chose to do it behind others. She just had to get back at him. She would gain something from it, but she would lose her false reputation to Yang Jian. "County military chief, just take it that I'm acting like a child. I'm sure the county military chief can understand, right?" Yang Jian laughed bitterly in his heart. Faced with Jiang Pengji's increasingly concentrated and fierce attacks, he could only retreat. Fortunately, Jiang Pengji didn't go overboard. Her injuries were in inconspicuous places, and she didn't attack his face. What shocked Yang Jian the most was not Jiang Pengji's speed or techniques, but her intuition and experience. She didn't seem like a pampered and spoiled Lang Jun from an aristocratic family. She seemed more like someone who had crawled out from a pile of corpses. Even Yang Jian had accumulated more than 10 years of experience. He had experienced thousands of battles before he could develop his current combat qualities. Thinking too much, Yang Jian's mind was distracted and he revealed an opening. Jiang Pengji circled to his blind spot. Her right hand formed a claw and wrapped around his neck. Her left hand pinned his hands behind his back. Then, she used her strength to flip him to the ground. All her actions were done in one go. By the time Yang Jian reacted, the situation was already over. He had no chance of winning, so he could only admit defeat. Forget it, forget it. I can't win against you youngsters. Jiang Pengji released her grip and helped him up from the ground. Thank you for showing mercy, County Military Chief. Jiang Pengji's words clearly indicated that she had admitted defeat. Yang Jian knew that she was saving him some face, but he was still displeased. However, he still had this bit of magnanimity. He wouldn't be calculative with Jiang Pengji. You are the same as your father. Both of you are foxes. Your father is treacherous with his words, while you are merciless with your hands. What Yang Jian didn't mention was that during those years when there was a food shortage in Dongmen County, although Lu Shi had borrowed some grain, the interest he paid was unscrupulous. It couldn't be compared to the printed money, but it had allowed Yang Jian to witness the black-hearted literati and the honeyed words of businessmen. Now, from Lu Shi's son, he saw the savagery of a martial artist. Your junior is ashamed. During this alliance meeting, even your father didn't dare to come over and talk to me about friendship, yet you barged in recklessly. Fortunately, on the surface, we are still on bad terms, so it won't affect you much. During the alliance meeting, try to restrain yourselves. Don't let the two families get too close, so as not to affect you and your father. Yang Jian was able to become the county military chief, not only because of his background and talent, but also because of Prince Changshuo's promotion. In other words, from the perspective of outsiders, he was on Prince Changshuo's side. Now that he had joined the alliance meeting, he couldn't be friends. Jiang Pengji didn't pretend to decline, she agreed without hesitation. Oh yes, I have something to ask the county military chief in private. Yang Jian asked, what is it? How long have you known my father and Han Mei's father, Xie Qian? Yang Jian and Lu Shi's interactions were mostly on official occasions. His relationship with Xie Qian was more personal. We've known each other since we were young. Why are you asking? Jiang Pengji crossed her arms in front of her chest. Her expression was thought-provoking. There were some things that she wanted to verify further. Although Qiguan Rang had already gotten the answer from Wei Yuan, Jiang Pengji still wanted to investigate further. However, it wasn't a good time to ask. Chapter 695. According to you, the conflict between Han Mei and your subordinates was initially because your subordinates mistook Han Mei for Xie Qian? Yang Jian admitted shamefully and vaguely explained the reason. Jiang Pengji said bluntly, but I heard from my father that Aunt Xie had died from a hemorrhage. Yang Jian said seriously, how could a junior like you understand the grudges between elders? He didn't believe that Xie Qian was that kind of person. Why would he sell his wife for glory? Moreover, when Wang Huiyun entered the former emperor's harem, Xie Qian had already been dead for a year. His corpse had decomposed into bones. Who could stop a widow from remarrying? Xie Qian, who had been dead for a year, had pushed his wife to the former emperor. Wasn't that nonsense? However, Li Yun's appearance proved that Xie Qian wasn't dead. He was still alive and kicking after more than 20 years. Jiang Pengji said, I used to hear my wet nurse tell bedtime stories. She said that there are lonely souls and wild ghosts with no one to rely on. Their hearts are filled with hostility and they are jealous of the living. They linger in the bustling world, so they often lurk around people who are about to die. Before they die, they seize their bodies and escape back to the world of the living. This story isn't realistic, but both Buddhism and Taoism believe that people have souls. What do you think, County Military Chief? Yang Jian was dumbfounded. This is just an absurd demonic story. It is indeed just a story, but have you heard about Aunt Xie before she gave birth? How did the world evaluate her? From what I know, she and my mother are known as the twin beauties of Langya. They are both talented and beautiful. She is one of the most beautiful women in the world. She has an eidetic memory. She can even recite the classics and history books fluently. Jiang Pengji knew about Wang Huiyun partly from her own investigation and partly from Lu Shi. Such an intelligent woman, if Xie Qian really had evil intentions, do you think she would obey her husband or seek help from her family? The Xie family of Gongning is indeed scary, but do you think the Wang family of Langya is useless? Wang Huiyun was the most outstanding noble lady in the Wang family of Langya. She was their pride and the face they displayed to the outside world. In the end, the daughter of the Wang family first gave herself to the ruthless former emperor, then climbed into his bed, and finally conspired with Prince Changshu. She had already laid her hands on all three royal brothers. Didn't she think her taste was too strong? Even if Xie Qian was shameless and Wang Huiyun threw caution to the wind, the Wang family of Langya could not sit back and do nothing. A person's temperament wouldn't change for no reason. Auntie Xie didn't suffer any setbacks. She only gave birth to a child. The midwife said that she had a hemorrhage after giving birth and there was nothing she could do. In the end, he didn't die. It was just that when he woke up, his personality changed drastically. Xie Qian suspected that there was a demon behind him, but he didn't expect that the other party would find out and kill him in secret. I learned all these details from my father. Yang Jian furrowed his brows. According to Jiang Pengji's explanation, apart from the additional element of fantasy, the logic actually made sense. Why are you telling me this? Jiang Pengji's gaze sharpened. Han Mei respects his master very much and loves his mistress, whom he has never met. Because Xie Qian did not say it clearly, Han Mei did not dare to confirm Xie Qian's blood relationship with him just based on the words of this junior's father. However, a master was a master after all. A master for a day was a father for life. There was no difference. No matter what the truth of this matter was, Xie Qian and Wang Huiyun's reputation was already in shambles. Han Mei would not be happy. This junior's words are insignificant and cannot help Han Mei with anything. I'm telling this to the county chief. I only hope that before the truth comes to light or before you seek confirmation from Xie Qian, you will first control your subordinates' mouths. Don't make wild guesses. Only one's own children could be beaten up. It was fine if outsiders came to make noise, but they also bullied others. This was not allowed. Yang Jian understood. He didn't mind Jiang Pengji's lack of manners. The two left the secluded area. Li Yun and the others, as well as Yang Jian's subordinates, were waiting anxiously outside. Seeing the two of them appear, everyone came forward to welcome them. Let's go back. We'll seek guidance from the county chief another day. Jiang Pengji's face did not show any joy. She wasn't exactly sad, but she was very disappointed. She must have suffered a setback. On the way back, Li Yun and Dian Yen followed behind obediently. They hung their heads. One big and one small, they looked like two children who had done something wrong. The matter has been resolved. In the future, avoid contact with County Chief Yang's people. Yang Jian had already spoken, so Jiang Pengji would not cause trouble for herself. Yes, I will obey my lord's orders. Fengzhen felt the tension in the air and coughed twice. My lord, I've already tested that person. After some hesitation, he agreed. Jiang Pengji was speechless. Speaking of which, she had just witnessed Yang Jian teaching Li Yun a lesson. Then she pulled Yang Jian aside to teach him a lesson. How long had it been? How did Fengzhen successfully hook up with his target and even persuade him to jump ship? Jiang Pengji also admired Fengzhen. She lowered her voice. Your lord is still trapped in Wanzhou. You're already thinking about how to conquer the rivers. I have to prepare early, just in case something happens, Fengzhen said shamelessly. Because of their outdated shipbuilding technology, if they were to fight on the water and encounter the navy, they would most likely be at a disadvantage. Most of Dongqing's territory was inland, but there were places where rivers and waters were accessible. If the enemy occupied the rivers in the future, how would they fight the war? Rather than sharpening their spears at the last minute, it was better to prepare early. It wasn't easy for Feng Zhen to encounter a talent in the navy. If he didn't think of a way to kidnap her, would he have to wait for another talent scout to discover him? That's true. Preparing for a rainy day is indeed a good habit. Jiang Pengji recalled the great universal geographical map of Dongqing in her mind. If she coveted the territory of the Mengs in Cangzhou, she would have to face the natural defenses of the rivers. Cangzhou's terrain was special. It was a battleground for military strategists. It was easy to defend and difficult to attack. If they retreated, they could rely on the natural defenses. If they attacked, they could make use of the complicated rivers and waters. It was difficult for ordinary troops to conquer. It was also where Dongqing was connected to 2 other countries. It was a vital part of the country. There were 3 natural defenses: Hanqiang Pass, Zhangjiang Pass, and Yumen Pass. If Jiang Pengji wanted to expand her territory and encroach on the territory of other countries, she couldn't avoid Cangzhou. If she started training the navy now, it would come in handy in the future. A duck that couldn't swim was worse than a weakling in the water. A mere 3,000 navy that was proficient in the water could annihilate an enemy army 10 times their size. If that's the case, does my lord have a reward? Of course I can. Let me make this clear. There's no wine or beauties here. Tell me, what reward do you want? Feng Zhen, my lord, there's still a strong smell of alcohol on you. You said there's no wine. You're clearly pocketing it. After a while, he could only open his mouth sullenly. I haven't thought about it yet. I'll keep it for now. Jiang Pengji couldn't help but laugh. Feng Zhen's aggrieved expression was really amusing. The talent that Feng Zhen had poached didn't come with them. Jiang Pengji didn't even know if he was round or flat. Chapter 696. He wanted to be alone and lick his wounds. Yang Jian's only son, Yang Tao, who was 22 years old, entered the tent. Yang Tao was born to his legal wife. He died of illness shortly after giving birth. All these years, his concubines gave birth to a string of daughters, but he never had a son. Thus, Yang Jian only had this one son. Deep down, he treasured him, but outwardly, he acted like a strict father. Is something the matter? His son looked troubled. Father, Lu Shi sent someone over to borrow someone from us. Yang Jian was suspicious. Borrow who? Yang Tao replied, the person Lu Shi wants to borrow is a centurion. Why? A centurion wasn't an insignificant soldier. Yang Jian only had 15,000 men under him. A centurion was quite precious. Yang Tao looked at his father hesitantly, his slightly immature face showing some hesitation. If you have something to say, just say it. Are you a man? Yang Jian suddenly raised his voice, scaring Yang Tao into saying, forgive me, father. Lu Shi thinks the person is ugly and unique. He wants to borrow him. Ugly, unique? How ugly could he be? Yang Jian didn't believe that Jiang Pengji was the type to cause trouble. She must have a reason for asking to borrow someone. He furrowed his brows and raised his hand to call the centurion over. Even Yang Jian, who wasn't obsessed with looks, felt disgusted. It hurt his eyes. The centurion was shorter than the average person. His right leg was injured. His limp could be seen after a few quick steps. Not only that, but his face was ugly. His eyebrows were far apart, one high and one low. His eyes were long and sunken. His nose bridge was sunken. Both sides of his nose were covered with freckles. His lips were thick and black. His neck ratio was different from the average person's. His shoulders looked a little sunken. He didn't seem to have enough energy. His arms were slightly short. Recalling the description of ugly and unique, he frowned, looking slightly unhappy. For a handsome and imposing man like Yang Jian, he had a slight dislike for ugly people. But why did Lu Shi's son want to borrow this person? Do you know the district magistrate of Xiangyang district, Lu Shi? Yang Jian carefully looked at the person's appearance. There were flaws everywhere. The man stood with his hands by his sides, lowered his eyes and said in a low voice, "I don't know him, but I've heard of him." This person's voice was hoarse. Naturally, it wasn't the kind of voice that was magnetic. Rather, it was the hoarseness of a hoarse voice. It was ear-piercing. Yang Jian grew more and more dissatisfied. He didn't have the desire to find out more about this person. That face ruined the atmosphere. He said straightforwardly, "Magistrate Lu thinks that you look unique and asked me to lend you to him for a few days. Are you willing to go?" The question was just out of politeness, so naturally, the man wouldn't object. However, Yang Jian was also a scheming person. Unknowingly, he had drawn a wave of hatred towards Jiang Pengji. This lowly one is willing. Then go ahead. Don't neglect Magistrate Lu. Yang Jian sent the man away. Yang Tao watched quietly, a look of distress on his face. He wanted to speak a few times, but Yang Jian asked him about his studies and martial arts. Yang Tao could only swallow the words that were on the tip of his tongue. After dealing with Yang Jian with much difficulty, Yang Tao returned to his tent gloomily. Not long after, a young scholar of similar age came in. The young scholar looked at Yang Tao, amused. "What's wrong? Why are you so gloomy?" His eyes were like a clear spring, containing an enchanting depth and wisdom. His entire body was surrounded by a refined and scholarly aura. Yang Tao raised his head and looked at his friend with some lingering fear. After a while, he lowered his head again, mentally preparing himself for a long time. There's something. I'll say it. Don't be angry." Yang Tao's expression was one of ingratiation. "What is it?" The young man was as gentle as ever. "Didn't you previously think highly of a centurion who was in charge of training the troops?" Yang Tao stammered. "Yes, I remember." "What happened to this person?" "He was borrowed by someone else." After Yang Tao finished speaking, he shrunk his neck. He didn't hear anything else for a long time. He quietly opened his eyes and saw that his friend was still maintaining his upright posture. He wasn't angry, but his expression that seemed to be smiling yet not smiling had disappeared. In its place was a solemn expression that was like water. "He was borrowed?" "Who borrowed him?" the young man asked. Yang Tao said, "Xiangyang District Magistrate Lu Shi said that the person was uniquely ugly and wanted to borrow him to take a look." The young man's lips curled into a cold smile. He threw the scroll in his hand to the ground. Although it didn't make much noise, his imposing manner was suffocating. "Borrow? Ha! I'm afraid he'll never return what he borrowed." Yang Tao sat obediently on the spot, looking like an obedient student waiting to be judged. The young man didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Tell me the details of that time in detail." Yang Tao didn't dare to hide anything. He babbled on and on, not missing the change in his father's expression. "Uncle, did you mention the reason why Lu Shi had borrowed him?" the young man asked him. "Yes." The young man murmured, I hope this will be a thorn in his heart and he won't side with Lu Shi." Yang Tao asked doubtfully, "I really don't know why Lu Shi borrowed this person." "Just because he's ugly?" The young man resisted the urge to facepalm. Lu Shi didn't want to see how ugly a person was. He clearly wanted to train the Navy. Train the Navy? Yang Tao was shocked. He immediately asked cautiously, "Why did Lu Shi train the Navy?" The young man asked in return, "Then why do you think Lu Shi borrowed this person?" Was it really because the other party was uniquely ugly? Such a reason could only coax a 3-year-old child. It couldn't coax him. If he really wanted to train the Navy, then wouldn't this person's ambition be? Maybe you're overthinking. After all, no matter how one looked at it, the young man's speculation was too shocking. Lu Shi's territory was located in the north of Dongqing. Most of it was basins and hills. There weren't many river routes and there weren't any large-scale naval battles. What was the difference between training the navy and drawing water with a sieve? The young man didn't think so. The Lu father and son are low-key, so most people ignore them. If you pay close attention, it's not difficult to discover their ambition. At this time, they want a talent to train the navy from us. Their ambition is obvious. Yang Tao said in distress, even if what you said is true, Lu she can still think of other ways if he doesn't borrow from us. The young man looked at Yang Tao with pity, as if he was looking at a retard. The crux of the problem wasn't how ambitious Lu she was, but that they had been poached by someone else. Perhaps Lu she was addicted to poaching and would keep an eye on them next time. Yang Jian's family business wasn't big. If it was handed over to the innocent Yang Tao, he wouldn't even know it when someone else poached him. Having such a childhood sweetheart, he was also mentally exhausted. Yang Tao also realized that he had said the wrong thing. He asked him in a low voice, "Why don't I think of a way to get him back?" The young man's eyes were filled with even more despair. How could his good friend make such a stupid suggestion? Get him back? If Yang Tao dared to go after him, Yang Jian would be the first to break his leg. Forget it, forget it. He's just a talent. There are many people in our army who are proficient in naval battles. It's not a pity to lose him. Chapter 697. On the other side, the uniquely ugly centurion quietly followed the soldier who led the way. He didn't say a word along the way. Considering that the centurion's legs were inconvenient, the soldier didn't walk too fast. The details were indescribably considerate. After a while, the centurion's brown cheeks were slightly hot, and he thanked the soldier in a low, muffled voice. "Master Feng has specially instructed us. It's not a small contribution." The soldier replied in a businesslike manner. During winter, one should walk faster so that the body could generate heat from the inside out and resist the cold. However, in order to match the centurion's pace, the few soldiers who led the way didn't dare to complain. They endured the cold and sent him out of the tent. They lowered their heads and lowered their hands. "Go in. The Lord and Master are already waiting for you inside. Don't let them wait too long." "Thank you very much." The centurion cupped his fists and then carefully entered the tent. When he opened the tent curtain, warm air with the light fragrance of pear blossoms blew into his face, dispersing the cold air around him. The tent had been carefully tidied up. A layer of soft animal skin cushion was spread on the ground, and an exquisite and small incense burner was placed in the middle. It finally looked like a commander's tent. "I'm Qi Kuang. Greetings to District Magistrate Lu." The centurion's legs were inconvenient, so his salute wasn't as neat as a normal person's, but it could be seen that his attitude was serious and not perfunctory. There were two people in the tent. A young man sat upright on the seat of honor. He looked a few years younger than Yang Tao, and his eyes were full of vigor. The other person was the scholar, Feng Zhen, who had tried to rope him in. Compared to Jiang Pengji's neat sitting posture, Feng Zhen seemed a little weak and boneless. He leaned against the table as if he had no bones. He squinted his eyes and looked at the centurion, Qi Kuang. "My lord, this is the talent I mentioned before." Jiang Pengji agreed and said to Qi Kuang, "Get up. The weather is cold and the ground is cold. It's not good for your legs to kneel for a long time." The centurion Qi Kuang stood up with his hands on both sides and his head slightly lowered. His gaze fell on the bronze incense burner not far in front of Jiang Pengji. Jiang Pengji asked Qi Kuang, "Do you know why I borrowed you?" Qi Kuang replied calmly, "The county chief already told me that District Magistrate Lu saw my unique appearance and borrowed me for a look." Hearing the reply, Jiang Pengji secretly frowned. No matter who saw Qi Kuang's appearance, they could understand the vile mockery hidden in the words, unique appearance. Yang Jian wasn't easy to deal with either. He really knew how to make enemies for her. Even if he did not know that Jiang Pengji was only pretending to borrow people and was actually poaching people, he was still cautious and dug a trap for her. However, in the end, it was still Feng Zhen, the prodigal son's fault. Just listen to what kind of lousy excuses this brat came up with. Who would do something like this? She, as the Lord, had to take the blame for the little princess's counselor. TSK, I'm not happy. That's just an excuse, it can't be taken seriously. As for my true motive, do you know? She looked at Qi Kuang with a faint smile. Her godly skill, the great deception spell, had entered cooldown and was waiting to be used. Qi Kuang was startled. His expression finally changed, and he looked a little cautious. I understand. The live stream was still ongoing. The audience in the live stream room knew that Jiang Pengji was going to recruit new employees again, so they stayed there and refused to leave. According to their understanding of Jiang Pengji, this lord had a problem with appearance. The people she recruited were either young or extremely handsome men. Even if they were old, they were still old handsome men. Even if they were not handsome, they were talented people with outstanding temperament. They wouldn't be ugly if they were dressed up a little. In short, appearance was very important. However, reality was cruel. Their passion was met with an unprecedented attack, and their hearts were broken. Lining Dianding Wei Zixiao, streamer, I know it's wrong to be a rooster, but I still have to say that after rounding up Qi Kuang's appearance, he is still a long way from passing the standard. Streamer, are you sure you want to rope this person in? He will pull down the average appearance of the whole group. Aren't you known as the Universal Beauty's Heavenly Group? Don't give up on treatment. Zishuan Beishwabafuzi, pft. Although the mockery above is very harsh, I also think. Yes, we don't welcome Qi Kuang to join us. The reason is very simple. He is too ugly and will affect the mood of work. However, as the lord of a powerful group, the streamer can't be so willful. No matter how much we object, we probably can't shake the streamer's determination. It was better to accept reality. Competitive Qiguan rang, as expected, even if we're in a different plane, the aesthetic standards of humans are the same. This is a cruel, cold, and superficial world. But then again, Qi Kuang isn't valued by Yang Jian. Isn't it because he's ugly? If he was good-looking, how could the streamers hope be his turn? They had been dug out long ago. Now that they were short of people, it was already good enough that they had people, yet they were still picky. Ugly as no saltly Han Mei, I can accept anything that is beneficial to the streamer. Pretty or ugly, I don't care. Actually, from a male's point of view, I still hope that the overall attractiveness of the streaming room can be lowered, with fewer handsome guys and more beautiful girls. Seriously, can you imagine when I'm dating my girlfriend, she's holding up the pretty boy Lian's photo, making all sorts of noises and screams? Jiang Pengji glanced at the series of IDs. Deep down, she was already holding back her laughter and suffering. These IDs were obviously fans who hated them deeply. Especially, self-cleansing Feng Zhi, he was so black. Feng Zhen, who was at the side, didn't know what was going on. He shifted uneasily, changing his kneeling position. Jiang Pengji collected her thoughts and focused on dealing with Qi Kuang. Since you know, are you willing? She never liked to beat around the bush. It was the same when she recruited people. She went straight to the point. If he was willing, he was willing. If he wasn't. Yes. She would think of a way to make people willing. Qi Kuang looked hesitant. He plucked up his courage and raised his head. His eyes met Jiang Pengji's. After their eyes met, he quickly lowered his eyelids. He secretly clenched his fists, plucked up his courage, and told the truth. According to what I know, District Magistrate Lu doesn't need to train the Navy now. Recruiting me is just to keep an idler. Qi Kuang felt that even if he jumped ship, he wouldn't be put in an important position. Jiang Pengji raised her eyebrows. So he was worried about this. She said, we don't need the Navy now, but it doesn't mean that we don't need to train them. It also doesn't mean that we won't need them in the future. Soldiers are trained for 1,000 days to be used in one day. When we need to use the Navy and I only have non-swimmers, it'll be too late. As for keeping an idler? My family has a big business. Even if I don't need the navy in this lifetime, so what if I keep you? Qi Kuang was silent for a while. Jiang Pengji didn't rush him. I was born ugly, my legs are handicapped, and my appearance is unsightly. District Magistrate Liu, do you really not mind? Chapter 698. Qi Kuang understood that the current atmosphere was like this. Family background and appearance were the most important. If one wanted to become an official, one's family background was the most important, followed by appearance. Ability, conduct, and talent were the last. Big bosses were obsessed with appearance. Qi Kuang was capable but not good-looking. He had worked hard for many years to climb to the position of centurion. Jiang Pengji heard this and asked Qi Kuang in surprise. I recruited you because of your talent, ability, and loyalty. Does it have anything to do with your appearance? She was amused and supported her forehead with her hand. She looked at Qi Kuang with a firm gaze. Whether you are beautiful or ugly has nothing to do with me. After all, shouldn't the person who cares about appearance be the one beside you? If you surrender, I will be the master and you will be the subject. How can the relationship between the master and the subject be equal to that of a husband and wife? As the master, I only need you to train the navy for me. Nothing else is important. Are you saying that if you are good-looking, you can train a more elite navy for me? Appearance was not a buff. It could not increase the strength of the entire army. Jiang Pengji wanted to recruit talents. She was not recruiting a vase. Qi Kuang was speechless, but the grudge in his heart was gone. After thinking about it, he gritted his teeth and said, Thank you for your kindness, my lord. I will do my best to train an elite army for you. Feng Zhen had already convinced Qi Kuang to surrender. Jiang Pengji had also made it clear that she did not mind his appearance. Qi Kuang was naturally willing to surrender. Since you have this determination, I will naturally support you with all my strength. Now is not the right time. It is not convenient for me to assign people to you. When you return to Wanzhou, you can select 3,000 elites as reserves for the navy. I will not interfere with how they are trained or what they need. It is taboo for an outsider to guide an expert in military training. I will not add to your troubles. There is only one thing you must remember, I want to see the elite army you speak of. Although Jiang Pengji did not directly say it, Qi Kuang could hear how much authority and freedom she had given him. As long as the navy was established, he would be the commander of the navy. No matter how much Qi Kuang thought about it, he did not expect Jiang Pengji to give him such a big promise. Thank you for your kindness, my lord. Qi Kuang bowed. I will not disappoint you. The dust had settled. Jiang Pengji, Feng Zhen, and Qi Kuang were all very satisfied. Only the live stream viewers were a little disappointed. Because of Qi Kuang, the overall attractiveness of Jiang Pengji's group had been pulled down by several percentage points. Wasn't watching the live stream for the sake of looking at one's face? However, this mood did not last long. Their impression of Qi Kuang had greatly improved. Even though Qi Kuang was ugly and had a lame leg, he was a man of great learning. His ancestors had been dealing with the water for generations. The first few generations were fishermen who lived along the river. When it came to his grandfather and father's generation, they became soldiers and dealt with the pirates along the river all year round. Growing up in such a family, Qi Kuang's foundation was much stronger than others. Full of confidence, he sought refuge with Yang Jian. He wanted to fulfill his ambitions and bring honor to his ancestors. He was like a young man who had just graduated from university and entered society. His chest was full of passion, but he had hit a wall in the face of reality. Because he was too ugly and one of his legs was slightly disabled, he had served under Yang Jian for 7 years. He had followed the Lord into hundreds of battles on the water and brushed past the King of Hell more than 10 times. Even now, he was still a centurion. However, he was not discouraged because of this. Instead, he became more diligent in his studies, but his temperament was not as enthusiastic as before. Now that Jiang Pengji had promised him great authority, Qi Kuang felt his blood, which had been silent for a long time, begin to heat up and boil again. Qi Kuang told Jiang Pengji many of his experiences, insights, and methods for training the navy. He even used the battles he had personally experienced as examples. He was reasonable and had evidence. He was not simply an armchair strategist. Jiang Pengji listened very seriously. Qi Kuang's level of education stopped at the level of writing and recognizing words. He had not studied deeply, so his literary talent was not good. However, he had a strong grasp of the rhythm of the story. His logic was very clear. Even the most mundane examples, when they came out of his mouth, could be described with great interest. At first glance, Jiang Pengji was very satisfied with this future commander of the navy. At the same time, Qi Kuang also gave his new lord a 5-star evaluation. He had originally thought that Jiang Pengji did not know the ropes. Unexpectedly, not only did she know, but she could also hit the nail on the head. Her questions were rather incisive. As the conversation between the two deepened, the live stream viewers became Qi Kuang's fans. Exploding Gung Baigon, people who work hard are the most handsome. Qi Kuang is not good looking, but he has quite a temperament when he's serious. Chuyue Piao, ditto, I agree. What one looks like is given by one's parents. It's not like one can choose. Even if one is ugly, one has human rights. Chuyue Piao, although I'm also a person who values appearances, I can't just casually attack someone else's appearance. It's not easy to make a conclusion without knowing much about Qi Kuang. However, a person chosen by the streamer is definitely not bad. I believe in the streamer's judgment. If Qi Kuang becomes successful in the future, it will be a live drama about the rise of the grassroots. It sounds very inspirational, so I plan to be his fan. The conversation lasted for more than 2 hours. Jiang Pengji was energetic as usual, but Qi Kuang and Fengzhen could not take it anymore. Looking at the sky outside, it was indeed getting late. I'm tired too. If there's anything else, let's talk tomorrow. Go and rest now. When Fengzhen heard this, he felt as if he had been granted amnesty. He called out to Qi Kuang, and the two of them left together. Jiang Pengji was full of energy. After they left, she was still thinking about Qi Kuang's method of training the navy. Although Qi Kuang's method of training the navy was very different from the current trend, Jiang Pengji admired it very much. However, if she were to build a navy, it would be a huge expense. Jiang Pengji rubbed her forehead as she felt a headache coming on. Because of the outdated technology of ship manufacturing and geographical restrictions, the size of the navy was limited. It could only be limited to a specific area. However, there was no lack of far-sighted people in the world. These people did not give up on the navy. Instead, they actively created the conditions and put it into practice. In the southern region, water bandits ran amok. In order to curb the development of water bandits and protect the people along the coast, the navy became a necessary force. Compared to the soldiers on land, the requirements for the navy were higher and stricter in terms of order, discipline, and cooperation. In other words, daily training and exercises were even more necessary for the navy than for the soldiers on land. This also meant that the expenses were higher. In the next few years, the navy might not have the opportunity to go to the battlefield. In Qi Kuang's words, it was like raising idlers. As time went on, it was inevitable that it would cause others to gossip. However, this was not a problem. If Jiang Pengji said she wanted to train the navy, who would dare to stop her? So what if she was criticized as an idler? As the Lord, she did not mind spending money on the navy. Why would outsiders complain? She rested her chin on her left hand and twirled a brush with her right. She spread out a clean piece of white paper on the table, thinking about how to start. Chapter 699. My dong, what is the streamer drawing? A ship? There was no one else in the tent except for her. Jiang Pengji took the time to answer the audience's questions. Host V, these are ships, but I know too little about ships from ancient times. There isn't enough information on warships for reference. Jiang Pengji was well-read and had read almost all kinds of miscellaneous books. Many of them had descriptions of ships. She picked out the contents one by one, then turned the words into pictures and drew them on the paper. However, the warships in her imagination were very different from actual warships. Host V, not only does a powerful navy need elite soldiers, but it also needs indestructible warships. According to my understanding, shipbuilding technology is still quite backward. Most of them are civilian fishing boats that can only be used in rivers or shallow waters. As for war, such small ships are almost useless. Military warships still need to be built, otherwise the navy will not be complete. Jiang Pengji entrusted the task of training the sailors to Qi Kuang. She still needed to solve the problem of warships herself. Jiang Pengji, building a ship with just your imagination? It feels like it will capsize. Should I get a reference? Jiang Pengji's eyes flickered slightly. A reference? That's not a bad idea. The next day, Jiang Pengji summoned Feng Zhen. You've already lured Qi Kuang over. There's no need to trouble two masters for the same thing. I'll have to trouble you again to find me a master shipbuilder. Feng Zhen didn't know what to say to that. Whatever sleepiness he had left was completely gone. Jiang Pengji said angrily, if there are no warships, how can they be considered navy? Feng Zhen felt that his lord was his nemesis. Was it so easy to find a master shipbuilder? Jiang Pengji took a step back. If you can't find a master shipbuilder, you can dig me a warship. Feng Zhen smiled bitterly. His brows were almost knotted. His lord was deliberately making fun of him. With his small body, he couldn't even dig the oars of a warship, let alone dig a warship. He laughed bitterly. If my lord wants a warship, you just have to tie me up and throw me into the river to offer it to the river god. Maybe I can get one. Forget it. I'm afraid that the river god will complain that you stole his wife and complain to me. If I throw you into the river, you won't even be enough to feed the fish. Jiang Pengji held back her laughter and, reluctantly, spared Feng Zhen. Forget it, I'll let you go for now. Anyway, it's not urgent now, so we can put the matter of the warship aside for the time being. Feng Zhen smiled and bowed as if he was begging for mercy. Thank you, my lord, for showing mercy. Fermented cat ball, brothers and sisters, now it's our turn. Host, look at us, we are your shield. Spectacles, with Baidu and Papa Gu in hand, even a grandmaster shipbuilder would have to kneel down and bow down to her, let alone a master shipbuilder. Not yesterday's stars, although we can be the intermediary and help the streamer look up information, there is no way to transmit pictures in the live stream room. You can only use text descriptions, which is a pain in the ass. How about this? Host, you think of a way to get a warship, and then we can modify the foundation of this warship? That should be more appropriate. Speaking of which, where can I buy a warship? Lingyang, I remember there are wooden shipyards in China. I've seen them on the news before. I wonder if there are any almighties in the know who can provide any clues. I'll immediately fork out my wallet and fly over. The master shipbuilder would be considered a master shipbuilder in the streamer's era. Even if he didn't build a warship, there would be similarities. If you have any news, you can poke me in the background. Thank you. Jiang Pengji had just finished teaching Feng Zhen a lesson and glanced at the bullet screen. Her chest warmed and she found it funny. Feng Zhen didn't know what was going on and thought that his lord was having a bad taste. Was it really that fun to bully him? Before he could ask, the messenger's voice came from outside the tent. My lord, there is a messenger outside the tent requesting an audience. Let him in. After a while, there was a rustling sound. A corner of the tent was lifted and a soldier in armor entered. By order of my lord, I pay my respects to District Magistrate Liu. Oh. Who's your lord? The chief of Zhe County, Su Bei, is my lord. As he finished speaking, the soldier handed over an invitation with both hands. Feng Zhen, who was at the side, hurriedly stood up to receive the letter and pass it to Jianghu. Jianghu accepted it. After she held it in her hands, she realized that the invitation was rather heavy. It didn't feel like an ordinary bamboo scroll. Not only was the material used exquisite and the workmanship was exquisite, but it was also fumigated with expensive spices. It carried a lingering fragrance that assailed the nostrils. In the words of the live stream viewers, this was probably the so-called taste of petty bourgeoisie. Jianghu lifted her hand and unrolled the exquisite bamboo scroll. She carefully read the contents and looked at the signature, Su Bei from Jianghu County. He had invited her and Lu Shi to attend the alliance meeting tomorrow. He spoke respectfully, making it hard for one to feel bad about it. Go back and tell your lord that my father and I will arrive on time for tomorrow's alliance meeting. Jianghu lowered her eyelids and placed the fragrant bamboo scroll to the side. The soldier didn't leave. Instead, he hesitated for a while and spoke of his purpose in deliberation. My lord admires District Magistrate Lu's youthful bravery and has specially set up a banquet in the camp. I wonder if District Magistrate would grant us the honor of attending? Jianghu raised her eyebrows. As intelligent as she was, how could she not see Su Bei's motive for secretly soliciting votes? Don't be fooled by the fact that the father and son were just bystanders. They didn't have many soldiers, but they carried a lot of weight. As long as they were roped in, Su Bei's bargaining chip would be guaranteed. She smiled faintly and said, Brother Su has specially set up a banquet to entertain us. How can I not attend? It is my honor. Go back and inform your lord. I will take a bath and change my clothes before attending the banquet. Otherwise, it will be impolite if I go there rashly. After the soldier heard this, his face lit up with joy. He bowed and left. When Fengzhen heard that there was a banquet, his eyes sparkled. It was as if he had imagined something. His Adam's apple moved quickly. Jianghu poured a bucket of cold water on him. Don't even think about it. It's not for you. Fengzhen's expression froze. There was an indescribable sense of distortion. The audience who had been watching the entire process couldn't help but burst into laughter. They even added psychological games to Fengzhen. Feng Zisher, who is pure and upright, my lord, if you continue to bully my family like this, my family won't be satisfied. Li Hanmei, who is ugly if there is no salt, sob, my lord, you are so bad. You bully my family. I will pound your little chest, sob. The atmosphere in the streaming room suddenly changed. Demons and ghosts danced wildly. Jianghu almost thought she was having a nightmare. Fengzhen asked, Then who will you be bringing, my lord? Jingrong, Jianghu replied. He has been busy with the affairs of the camp these past 2 days. He is exhausted. It's a free banquet. It would be a waste not to eat it. Fengzhen knew that he had no chance. However, my lord, don't forget to bring me a bottle of wine when you return. He hadn't had a drop of wine in the past few days. The liquor bug in his stomach was about to overturn the heavens. Fengzhen was craving it. Jianghu agreed, feeling annoyed and amused at the same time. Chapter 700. Temporarily shutting down the streaming room, Jianghu washed up and changed into her usual home attire. Jingrong, help me get a painting and put it on the table behind the screen in the commander's tent. Bring it with you to the banquet. Yang Si did as he was told. No matter how Yang Si looked at it, his lord was clearly a handsome young man. This young face was full of vitality unique to her age. At the same time, she had a steadiness that her peers did not have. As long as a normal person was not blind, who would find out that she was actually a girl? However, the truth was that she was a genuine woman. Hearing that she would bring him to the banquet and decline Fengzhen, Yang Si felt that his lord's decision was correct. Fengzhen was a reckless fellow. When he saw wine and beauties, he couldn't move. It was easy for him to delay important matters. How could such a guy share the lord's worries at the banquet? If it was a man, it would be fine if he got drunk. Maybe he would have good luck with women and wake up the next day with a soft and fragrant beauty by his side. It would be a waste not to take advantage of a free gift. Unfortunately, his lord was a woman. She could not drink too much on such an occasion. The people around her had to be more cautious. Yang Si felt that there was a long way to go. At this time, Yang Si completely forgot one thing. With Jiang Pengji's alcohol tolerance, she could overturn a group of people. Although this painting has no signature, looking at the painting technique and style. Was this painted by Zixiao? When Yang Si took the painting, it was already half unrolled. With a casual glance, he could tell who the painter of this painting was. Yes, before the army set off, we asked him for a painting to use for publicity. Jiang Pengji walked forward and glanced at the pattern in the painting. She said with a smile, "Among the people I know, Zixiao's painting technique is the best. I like his painting style too." Jing Rong, if you've never been to Xiangyang district, would you be moved when you see the flourishing scene in this painting? Yang Si's expression was a little strange. He seemed to be struggling with something. However, he said carelessly, "A paradise beyond the world. My heart admires it." Just based on the contents of the painting, people who didn't know would indeed yearn for it. However, speaking of Wei Si's painting technique, he suddenly thought of something. He remembered that Wei Si had once painted a portrait of a woman who was exceptionally precious. Now that he recalled the face of the woman in the painting, he was extremely terrified when he thought about it. In the beginning, Yang Si did not know Jiang Pengji's gender. When he saw the painting, he thought that Wei Si had some hidden intentions. Now that he knew the truth, the woman in the painting was obviously his lord. So it wasn't that the lord wanted to do the unspoken rules with Wei Si, but that the gentleman, pervert, Wei Si had other intentions towards the lord? Jiang Pengji noticed that there was something wrong with Yang Si's expression. However, she did not delve too deeply into it. Instead, she carefully put the painting away. "This is a magical treasure for us to expand our business. I plan to treat it as the god of wealth. Who knows, we might be able to make a lot of money." She opened the live broadcast room, and the 150,000 slots were filled in an instant. By the time they arrived at the banquet, the sky had already darkened. Countless torches were lit up in the allied tents, like a red waterfall in the dark night. Jiang Pengji was dressed in casual clothes with a thick rabbit fur cloak over her head. She looked more childish and less valiant, making her look more scholarly and weak. At first glance, she did not look like someone who lived in the army camp. Instead, she looked more like a noble young master from a wealthy family who had gone out to play. There were bodyguards accompanying them all around. Yang Si rode a horse and followed them unhurriedly. Su Bei's campsite was built in the center of the Allied Army's campsite. Military tents were scattered all over the place. The commander's tent was in the middle, like a myriad of stars surrounding the moon. Jiang Pengji scanned the area and realized that Su Bei was indeed rich and imposing. He was indeed a descendant of the Su family. Every soldier wore a full set of armor. The weapons in their hands were of the same type and were of excellent quality. A complete set would not be a small sum. Thinking about how many soldiers and generals Su Bei had under him, if he were to equip every single one of them with a set, how rich would his family have to be to equip them all? Jiang Pengji was secretly speechless. She lamented that a nouveau riche was indeed a nouveau riche. Rich and willful. Inside the tent, a luxuriously dressed young man was sitting high up on the seat of honor. He was frowning as he conversed with his trusted aide. Hearing the commotion outside, everyone kept quiet. Their gazes shifted outside the tent, waiting for Jiang Pengji to appear. Not long after, the tent flap was lifted from the middle. Su Bei also stood up from his seat of honor and went forward to welcome the distinguished guest. A handsome young man wearing a rabbit skin cloak walked into the tent. His handsome face was like a gust of cold wind, blowing away the heat in the tent. Su Bei's subordinates looked at Jiang Pengji's attire and doubts arose in their hearts. This person was dressed in casual attire. He did not look like he was attending a formal banquet, but more like he was visiting a friend's house as a guest. Although it was not impolite, the scene did not seem right. This is the son of the governor of Liuzhou? He is indeed a talented man, young and promising. Su Bei's appearance was slightly handsome. Coupled with his scholarly aura, he added a few notches of charm. The audience in the live streaming room roared in excitement. This was a carnival for those who were obsessed with looks. Su Bei led Jiang Pengji into the tent, his lips warm. When I saw you enter just now, I felt a sense of familiarity, as if we've known each other for a long time. If I remember correctly, you and I are close in age and belong to the same generation. If District Magistrate Lu doesn't mind my mediocre aptitude, why don't we address each other as brothers? Jiang Pengji smiled and said, to be able to address County Chief Su as brothers is obviously my honor. How can I refuse? Su Bei was also someone who took advantage of the situation. He regarded himself as the elder brother and unknowingly brought the two of them closer together. Yang Xi's seat was arranged to be behind Jiang Pengji. At the banquet, everyone secretly examined Jiang Pengji from the corner of their eyes. Even though Jiang Pengji was young, no one present dared to look down on her. Even the self-proclaimed noble Su Bei had to take her seriously. Putting aside her relationship with Lu Shi, Jiang Pengji could occupy the entire Wanzhou without relying on her family or her father. Moreover, she was still so young. She was far superior to everyone present. If she added Lu Shi's influence, who in the Alliance army would dare to provoke her? She might not treat her like an ancestor, but they would not become enemies. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Shi and Jiang Pengji had brought too few troops, even if the Su brothers had the intention to take the position of Alliance leader, they would be powerless. The most important guests had already taken their seats. Su Bei ordered people to serve food and wine. He turned his head and asked Jiang Pengji, worthy younger brother, do you like singing and dancing? She was about to reject him when the bullet screens in the streaming room changed. I like it. I like it very much. Let go of those singers and dancers, let me do it. Jiang Pengji swallowed the words that were on the tip of her tongue. With a normal expression, she said, it's all right. When this answer fell into Su Bei's ears, it became reserved. After, it was, I like it very much. He revealed a meaningful smile and raised his eyebrows slightly. He said, I understand. Which hero doesn't love beautiful women? Yang Xi, who was in the background, looked down at the ground. Chapter 701. His lord was a woman. Why would she like a group of beautiful women singing and dancing? The table in front of her was filled with delicious food and wine. There were also some delicious dried fruits that were hard to find in the north. Jiang Pengji was gnawing on the dried fruits like a squirrel. Her sharp ears heard the footsteps of more than 20 women outside the tent. The tent curtain opened. Dancers in red, accompanied by the fragrance of orchids, filed in, brightening the entire tent. Spices were added to the lamp oil. When it was burned, the bronze lamp would emit a strange fragrance. In this fragrant atmosphere, the graceful figure of the dancer in red, who was dressed in thin clothes, stepped on the elegant and mellow music of the Chinese traditional music instruments and danced with the accompaniment of her companions. The audience in the live stream was even more excited, as if they were a gathering of hungry wolves. The contents of the bullet screen had changed into a different style, and the gifts were pouring in like water, full of enthusiasm. Hanwu the great emperor, didn't they say that the ancients were ugly? This is a slap in the face. I thought that the modern aesthetic standards were very high. Now that I'm watching the streaming room, I know that classical beauties are classical beauties. Internet celebrities can't compare to them. They are very recognizable. Chen Ajiao, you shameless people who are obsessed with looks. Shouldn't the focus be on the music and classical dance? Jiang Pengji was the son of an aristocratic family, but the audience in the streaming room knew that she didn't like luxury. She preferred pragmatism. This also led to the streaming room being serialized for many years. The audience had only seen a few banquets, but the quality of each one was extremely high. According to the audience, many people regarded the recorded videos of those banquets as the standard. They restored the ensemble music 100%. There was even a nouveau riche who paid for an ancient music festival. It had been held 4 times so far. Driven by the popularity of the streaming room, there was a retro trend in China in recent years. Young people also began to pay attention to ancient culture. Jianghu knew the importance of civilization to the inheritance of a race. As long as the influence was positive, she would be happy for them. Some people had high awareness, but more people were ordinary people who were obsessed with looks. Looking at beautiful people was the top priority. They could see that these dancers were carefully trained. They should be private song and dance troupes in the backyard of high officials and nobles. Every dancer's appearance was of a very high standard. Each of them had elegant facial features, slender figures, creamy skin, and waists like spring willows. Even if she wasn't an outstanding beauty, she was still a rare beauty. All the beauties in red were dancing in the tent. Their watery eyes were dazzling and captivating, making one's heart itch. Jianghu held a wine bottle in one hand and supported the table with the other. She rested her chin on her hand. She squinted her eyes and looked at the dancers as if she was fascinated. If one were to look closely, it would not be difficult to notice that her gaze was already fixed on the leading dancer. Her gaze was burning like fire, and under her calm appearance, there was a blazing heat, as if she wanted to burn through the dancer's dancing clothes and use her eyes to inspect her naked body. Sube noticed Jianghu's expression and snickered in his heart. Youths were youths after all. How could they resist the seduction of beauty? He had thought that the other party was a young man who cultivated in seclusion and had excellent self-control. Now that he saw it, it was obvious that he was a hypocrite. Yang Si, who was sitting in the row behind Jianghu, watched her back view and tilted her head. He secretly broke into a cold sweat. My lord, no matter how much you like young ladies, you don't have the tools to commit the crime. Do you still remember your true gender? These dances are very unique. Jianghu snapped out of her trance and smiled at Sube. The dance is beautiful, but the dancers are even more beautiful. Indeed, she was passionate. They are just dancers kept at home. If you like them, you can pick any one of them and take it as a gift from me. Between the aristocratic families, not to mention giving away singers and dancers to be kept in the backyard, even exchanging concubines was a matter of elegance. Jianghu's expression changed slightly. She was a little tempted, but she still restrained herself. How can I accept this? Looking at their appearances, it seems that they have spent a lot of effort to train them. They are so expensive, I can't accept them. Sube said to the leading dancer, you don't know how to read the situation. Go and pour some wine for District Magistrate Lu. The dancer bowed gracefully and stretched out her delicate and boneless hands to pour a cup of wine for Jianghu. The distance between them was not far. Jianghu could smell the fragrance on her body and casually asked a question. What kind of fragrance did you use? It smells so good. The dancer blushed and said shyly, I have never used fragrance. This is a natural body fragrance. Yang Si's expression became even more rigid. He was wrong. He should not have followed her. It was more suitable for the prodigal son, Fengzhen, to come to such an occasion. He was best at dealing with these women. A natural body fragrance? Jianghu moved closer and sniffed. What entered her eyes was the dancer's slender, fair neck and delicate collarbone. Her expression was slightly intoxicated. Even her usually clear voice was slightly hoarse, making one's ears go soft. She is indeed a beauty. Even her fragrance is different from others. District Magistrate Lu is too kind. Do you know any other dances? Jianghu asked her. The dancer whispered, yes. Sube, the brothel keeper, who pulled the strings, clapped his hands. The music that had just ended started again and the leading dancer returned to the group. Jianghu said, this dance and music is very novel. It feels very different from the northern dances. Sube smiled and said, the northern dances are rough and bold, while the southern dances are gentle and meticulous. The style of the two is naturally different. Brother Su is quite knowledgeable about this. I often hear how talented you are. Rumor has it that you are the reincarnation of the Wuxia star. Unlike me, I have never liked to study since I was young. I don't know anything about the four arts. Even my father often reprimands me, saying that I am a blockhead. Out of my 7 orifices, I know nothing at all. I thought that if I had your level of attainment, my father wouldn't have to sigh and reprimand me so often. Jiang Pengji had a dejected look, like a frustrated youth. How could Su Bei believe that? However, he was also a shrewd person. Naturally, he would not expose Jiang Pengji's humble words. Under Jiang Pengji's intentional guidance, the topic of their conversation slowly shifted to the field of art. Su Bei did not disappoint Jiang Pengji's praise. He looked young, but his attainment in the 4 arts was not shallow. The audience sighed with emotion. If Su Bei had been born in their era, he would have been an all-round artist. Once he was reported, he would have swept the entire country. He was good-looking and proficient in the 4 arts of a gentleman. With such a persona, Tom Su, he would definitely be chased after by countless fangirls. It would be impossible for him not to become popular. It was a pity that Su Bei was born in the wrong era. He was born in a clan like the Su family. Those skills could only become playthings in his spare time. As they were happily chatting, Su Bei's gaze fell on the painting scroll in Yang Xi's hand. He casually asked a question. Was that painted by you, my worthy brother? Jiang Pengji revealed a well-proportioned expression of embarrassment. My father often reprimands me, saying that I am not skilled enough. Even a 3-year-old child's graffiti is better than my drawing. I am unconvinced, so I searched for the painting of Master Yuanjing's disciple. I plan to take it home and study it. Perhaps I can learn something from it, so that my father won't reprimand me twice. I have embarrassed myself in front of Brother Su. Jing Rong, why did you bring this painting out? Chapter 702. They thought An Shui's acting skills had already reached the peak. Now that they saw it, it was clear that the streamer's acting skills were even more exquisite. The Oscars owed her dozens of awards. Yang Xi secretly curled his lips, but on the surface, he apologized respectfully. When Su Bei heard that the painting was drawn by Master Yuanjing's disciple, his curiosity was piqued. He spoke up for Yang Xi and tactfully asked if he could take a look at the contents of the painting. Naturally, Jiang Pengji would not refuse. This was the effect she wanted. Everyone in the tent knew of Master Yuanjing's reputation. They also knew that he had taken in 4 disciples. Someone said, I heard that Master Yuanjing is proficient in the art of painting. I wonder how much of the essence the master's disciple can learn. I wonder if we have the good fortune to take a look at the master's disciple's painting? Everyone in the tent agreed. They had no ill intentions, they were just curious. Master Yuanjing's reputation was too high. His 4 disciples were still unknown, which made people suspicious. Now that they could capture the painting of one of his disciples, they had to take a look and see if his disciple was worthy of his reputation. Su Bei wanted to admire the painting alone, but hearing his subordinates' voices, he could not help but ask Jiang Pengji with his eyes. After all, it was someone else's painting. He had to respect the owner's opinion. Jiang Pengji nodded in agreement. Su Bei then asked the dancers to stop dancing and unfurled the painting so that everyone in the tent could see it. Which disciple of the master painted this painting? Jiang Pengji said, the Wei family of Langjia. His name is Ci and his courtesy name is Zixiao. Because of his frail body, he rarely appears in front of people. Nowadays, because of the lack of materials and painting skills, many people pursued freehand brushwork and did not rigidly adhere to superficial similarities. Wei Ci's painting was different. It was between realistic and freehand brushwork. The brush strokes were gentle and delicate, giving it a 3-dimensional feeling. The content depicted in the painting was the panoramic view of Xiangyang district. Due to the length of the painting, not much was revealed, but it already included many lively scenes. There were wine shops, restaurants, tea houses, all kinds of stalls and vendors. There were also pedestrians on the streets. Some were alone and walked hurriedly. Some were in pairs, which made others envious. Some were in families. The husband and wife were in harmony and the children were lively. There were hundreds of characters and each character had a different expression. It made people marvel at the painter's meticulous observation and exquisite painting skills. Apart from the people and the streets, the most eye-catching things were the orderly buildings, the waterside pavilions, the flying eaves and arches. This painting was the epitome of prosperity in their hearts. Su Pei said, "The painter's talent is outstanding, and his chest is filled with thousands of ravines, full of compassion for the people of the world. This older brother is ashamed." Jiang Pengji was dumbfounded. The live stream viewers had the same reaction. Little Ruibao's mother, "I suddenly remember the one who took the college entrance exam this year." There was a strange light in his eyes. "Apple-scented tea, ha 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 ha, 10 years of hard work, and I lost to a grass carp." Tong Tong's girl, "If Su Pei took the exam, he would get full marks in his reading comprehension. He's a top scholar." Shu Shanyali, #propping chin, "Isn't that so?" Perhaps Sishan Beauty only wanted to paint a landscape painting. Su Bei had praised her, so the people below couldn't help but praise her as well. Moreover, this painting was indeed a rare work of art. It's really like the utopia that I imagined. I think when the previous dynasty was at its peak, when thousands of countries came to pay their respects, it was also a scene like this. An old general stroked his grizzled beard and heaved a long sigh. The others regained their composure and agreed one after another. The live stream viewers were practically going crazy with laughter. The content of the painting was clearly the scenery of Xiangyang district. Jiang Pengji deliberately waited for them to praise her before bashfully adding another stab. "Everyone is praising me too much. The scenery in the painting is the land under the rule of the younger generation, the scenery of Xiangyang district." It's not, Jiang Pengji spoke vaguely. The entire commander's tent felt as if a cold Siberian wind had passed through it, leaving only a dozen or so ice sculptures. Su Bei's face flushed red. He was secretly embarrassed and angry. He glared fiercely at the old general who first praised her. "Don't speak if you don't know how to speak properly. Now you're embarrassed." Fortunately, Jiang Pengji did not harp on this matter. Instead, she exchanged her experiences in governing the people with Su Bei. This was Su Bei's area of expertise. At the same time, it alleviated his awkwardness. Due to his chaotic state of mind and the previous awkwardness, Jiang Pengji held the initiative in this conversation. Under her guidance, Su Bei naturally shifted his attention from the art and techniques of the painting to the people and the buildings within. Speaking of the buildings, he realized that the streets, houses, and courtyard walls in the painting were somewhat strange. Jiang Pengji casually mentioned this and took the opportunity to introduce the green brick. The live stream viewers gave her countless thumbs up for her sales promotion. The streamer's tricks were not only complicated but also frighteningly profound. If they met a salesperson like the streamer, not only would they not buy anything, they would probably even hand over their crotch. Throughout the conversation, it seemed as if Su Bei was the one asking questions and Jiang Pengji was the one answering passively. In reality, the rhythm was still in her hands. "I wonder how much this green brick costs to build." After laying the groundwork, Su Bei finally asked this question. Zhe County was located in the south. It was warm and rainy throughout the year. Nowadays, most of the buildings were made of wood and stone. When it rained too much, it would easily become damp and mold would form. The ground would also be muddy and slippery. Su Bei was also a shrewd person. Naturally, he was unwilling to suffer a loss. He wanted something good and wanted to pay the least price. He wanted to test Jiang Pengji and find out her background. It's not expensive to build. With suitable quality soil, it can be baked into green bricks. Jiang Pengji spoke casually, as if she did not know Su Bei's motive. She was like the foolish son of a landlord. Su Bei's brows furrowed deeply. He asked, using soil to bake it? Is it like baking clay porcelain? The principle is the same, but the temperature of the fire is different. The construction of the brick kiln is also very particular. Su Bei's heart itched. He probed, brother, do you sell this item here? Jiang Pengji laughed and said straightforwardly, even if I am willing to sell it, brother Su won't be able to afford it. Su Bei was puzzled. But just now, you mentioned that fake green bricks are cheap. Why are you saying that you can't afford it now? Jiang Pengji smiled as she explained to him, green bricks aren't worth much, but how far is the distance between Xiangyang district and brother Su's Shi County? Green bricks are very cheap, but their weight is heavy. If a large quantity of green bricks were to be transported from Xiangyang district to Shi County, who knows how much money and manpower would be expended? If that's the case, then this green brick isn't made of mud. It's more like it's made of silver. I admire brother Su's talent. How would I dare to deceive you? Su Bei was startled. He had forgotten to consider the cost of transportation. His expression was one of shame. Jiang Pengji was still nagging. If we want to bake green bricks, it's best to build a brick kiln in an area with suitable soil. Su Bei's heart was moved. He had already set his heart on the green bricks. He was an ambitious person. Naturally, he was unwilling to be inferior to others. Chapter 703. If he could make Shi Prefecture look like the scene in the painting, with clean streets, clean clothes for the people, healthy complexions, and a flourishing state, then, his cousin, Su Fei, would no longer be able to contend against him. Even if his grandfather favored his cousin more, the Su family would still be in the bag for Su Bei. After all, as the head of the family, his grandfather could not go against the opinions of the elders. However, how could he obtain the method to produce the flashing bricks? Su Bei was calculating in his mind. The banquet was nearing its end. Jiang Pengji had also gotten to know the people in Su Bei's tent. Just as he was feeling tipsy, Su Bei suddenly remembered the purpose of inviting Jiang Pengji to this banquet. He probed. Is my worthy younger brother interested in the position of the alliance leader? If you are, I will definitely support you. Jiang Pengji shook her head. Her eyes were no longer clear, and she was hazy from drunkenness. To tell you the truth, I have sent troops to suppress the rebels several times. My purse is already empty and I cannot spend it. My subordinates and troops are exhausted and have almost lost their vitality. In order to give the people time to recuperate, and in order not to bear the bad reputation of being a warmonger, I plan to rest for a year or two first. Now, in the alliance meeting, to put it bluntly, I'm just here to join in the fun, to avoid being criticized. Su Bei glanced at Jiang Pengji and saw that her cheeks were flushed red. She was so drunk that her eyes were glazed over. As she spoke, the strategist behind her paled. He wanted to stop her but did not dare to. Was she drunk? Su Bei smiled. If she was not completely drunk, why would she reveal such important information? Yang Si, who was cooperating with Jiang Pengji's act, secretly pouted. He stood up and bowed, assisting her. My lord is drunk and delirious. If her words and actions are inappropriate, I ask for County Chief Su's understanding. Su Bei graciously agreed. Yang Si then wanted to help his lord back. Unexpectedly, Su Bei stopped him. Yang Si's expression immediately darkened. It was a rare opportunity. How could Su Bei let her go? Su Bei was good at getting information out of people, but how could Jiang Pengji, who had better acting skills, fall for it? She only said what she was willing to say. She would not discuss anything else. Even so, the combination of truth and falsehood made Su Bei's heart blossom with joy. Under his persuasion, Jiang Pengji agreed to sell him the method of making the flashing bricks. However, to prevent the relationship between the two forces from becoming stiff, he knew when to stop. He did not take advantage of the fact that Jiang Pengji was drunk to lower the price. In the end, he even gave Jianghu the leading dancer. He planned to use the beauty to appease his younger brother so that he would not regret his decision after he woke up. It's deep in the night now, and the wind and snow outside are too strong. Why don't you stay in the camp and leave tomorrow after you've sobered up? What else could Yang Si say? He could only agree sullenly. The delicate and frail dancer in red and Yang Si supported Jianghu on her left and right, sending her to another tent. The accommodation that Su Bei had arranged for Yang Si was nearby. The two tents were not far apart. The red-clothed dancer lowered her head slightly, revealing her slender, white neck. Her eyebrows were lowered. "Sir, please allow me to serve Lang Jun." Under the light of the lamp, the face of the beauty in red was even more charming. Even a single dog like Yang Si was stunned for a moment. If the Lord's gender was normal, Yang Si would have tactfully left, but he stood rooted to the ground, unmoving. The red-clothed dancer timidly stared at the tips of their feet. The two of them were in a subtle confrontation. At that moment, Yang Si looked at Jianghu from the corner of his eye. His lord was lying limply on the bed. Her eyes were tightly shut. She waved a finger by her side, indicating for him to get lost. Yang Si was speechless. He should have let the prodigal son, Fengzhen, come on such an occasion. He was not going to fool around anymore. Yang Si resisted the urge to ridicule her. He coughed twice and said to the dancer, "Serve the Lord well." He was puzzled. Could it be that his lord wanted to use this opportunity to reveal her identity? Or was it that his lord, as a woman, did not like men and preferred feminine styles? It was terrifying to think about it. He got lost nimbly. The red-clothed dancer sent him out of the tent, then carried the lamp back to the inner room behind the screen. "Lang Jun?" The red-clothed dancer called out softly. Jianghu did not move. The audience in the streaming room cheered. Was there going to be an erotic battle between the two of them? "Shinbulai Wazi, I can't take it anymore. Is the streamer going to give us a bonus?" "Goddess Zaiwo Shixia, no way, a lesbian? That's disgusting. I'd rather watch a gay man." "Hacker Mosquito Xiang, to the one above, you're even more disgusting. To put it bluntly, a lesbian can't be seen if you dry it. A gay man needs to wipe his shit. Who's more disgusting than the other? Emotions are fair. It has nothing to do with gender. This is the streamer's streaming room. We don't welcome uncultured trash like you. Lo Siji Lianmeng, to the one above, please calm down. Don't start a fight. The streamer has always valued her privacy. When did she not dress neatly before she started streaming? Do you think she'll stream so that you can watch her fight with a transvestite? You're thinking too much. Based on my many years of following the streaming room, the streamer must be preparing for some big move. Or, there's something wrong with this red-clothed dancer. Old viewers were old viewers after all. As rational fans of the streaming room, they naturally would not be led astray so easily. "Lang Jun?" As she spoke, the red-clothed dancer took a step closer. She raised her hand and pushed Jianghu. "You're really drunk." Her tone suddenly turned cold. Her originally coquettish, smoky makeup took on a sinister look. At this moment, the audience expressed their shock with exclamation marks. Damn it. There's something wrong with the dancer. Gue kai guofengxio, damn it. This vicious beauty has drawn her sword. Streamer, be careful. Don't pretend to be asleep. The snow-white dagger was unsheathed. With lightning speed, it stabbed toward Jianghu's neck. The dagger slashed across. The snow-white light was like a waterfall. It was dazzling and blinding. The audience in the streaming room was so shocked that they covered their eyes, not daring to look directly at it. The red-clothed dancer could even foresee the scene of Jianghu's neck spurting blood in the next second. However, the scene she expected did not happen. The speed of her attack was so fast that she only managed to stab the pillow on the bed. Her target had already quickly rolled away. Because of her strength, the dagger was deeply embedded in the wooden planks under the heavy mattress. In the instant that the red-clothed dancer was stunned, Jiang Pengji had already kicked her left chest. She did not succeed in dodging. Her soft chest was hit by a huge force. Her entire body flew backward. The bullet screen in the streaming room followed the plot twist. The entire screen was filled with 666 and shocked exclamation marks. Of course, there were also some sporadic bullet screens. Hacker Mosquito Shangpian, oh my god. At that moment, I felt pain in my chest. Lan Sei Ci, to give a visual description, before the kick, it was protruding. After the kick, it was concave. Mo Qianzue, to the person above, are you trying to make me laugh to death so that you can inherit my flower money? Jiao Mo Miaran, what the hell is concave and protruding? The streaming room is indeed full of talents. Indifferent Chujian, ha ha ha. I want to stuff the microphone into the streamer's mouth and interview her about the feeling of that kick. Jiang Pengji looked at the red-clothed dancer with a faint smile. She took the time to send a bullet screen to the audience. Chapter 704. The dancer in red stood up awkwardly and coughed twice with great effort. She flipped the dagger in her hand and aimed it at Jiang Pengji's face. The strength of Jiang Pengji's kick would have shattered a normal person's sternum. On the other hand, this person only had a bruise on the left side of her chest. There was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth, and her breathing was slightly ragged. Looking at her attack, she didn't seem to be weakened at all. Instead, she was getting more and more courageous. Jiang Pengji was amused to see her like this. Her entire body was full of flaws. How could such a weak person want to assassinate her? Who gave her the courage? Jiang Pengji's eyes turned cold. She slashed the person's wrist with lightning speed and snatched her dagger. The dancer in red did not want to show weakness. Her other hand formed a claw and reached for Jiang Pengji's throat. Jiang Pengji frowned and dodged, but her clothes were too late. Her wide sleeves were torn into shreds. At that moment, the audience in the streaming room realized that the dancer in red's fingernails had strangely elongated. They were 3 inches long, silvery white, and extremely sharp. It was no wonder that Jiang Pengji's sleeves had been torn apart by her. If she had grabbed her neck or scratched her face, the audience trembled. They were afraid for Jiang Pengji. Pia Piao Yang, my god, isn't this the ancient world? Why are there elements of wuxia and fantasy? Huang Xiaotian of few words, did she practice the 9-yin white bone claw? Will she break the top of her skull with one claw? Streamer, be careful. The audience was nervous and worried. As the person involved, Jiang Pengji was calm. She looked at the fingernails and mocked them in her heart. These fingernails were indeed quite strange. The dancer in red was not willing to give up. She attacked again after one attack failed. Her red dancing dress fluttered with her movements. It made people sigh with emotion. Even though they knew that her moves were fatal, they were still mesmerized. Was this a martial art or a dance? Jiang Pengji expressed that it was neither a dance nor a martial art. It was just trash. The dancer in red attacked faster and faster, but Jiang Pengji could always easily dodge them. The longer they fought, the more frustrated and anxious she became. Gradually, she lost her patience. Her originally beautiful face flashed with malevolence. B*TCH, go to hell. Jiang Pengji laughed and replied, You? You're not qualified. The inner room was a mess. The commotion had already spread outside, but no one paid it any mind. They thought that the people inside were engaged in a fierce battle. Yang Si, who had just taken off his clothes and was about to sleep, was also alarmed. He put on his clothes and came out. When he heard the discussion of outsiders, his heart skipped a beat. Others might not know, but how could he not? His lord was clearly a woman, so how could she have sex with that red-clothed dancer? Not to mention causing such a huge commotion. Not good. A terrible guess emerged in Yang Xi's mind. He quickly took out his sword and ran to the tent. Just as he was about to enter, his lord's scolding voice came from inside. "Get out, don't get in the way." Yang Xi stopped in his tracks, and his outstretched hands stopped in midair. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Almost at the same time, screams of horror came from the tent where the dancers lived, alarming the soldiers. What happened? Why are you making so much noise? Are you itching for a beating? The female manager who was in charge of the dancers and singers heard the news and rushed over. She found that everyone was pale. She was suspicious and squeezed through the crowd. Suddenly, a chill rushed from the soles of her feet to her brain. There was a charcoal fire burning in the tent, but she felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. It turned out that there was a beautiful woman with a graceful figure lying in the tent. Her clothes had been stripped clean, and her hair was messy. She was naked from head to toe, and her face was badly mutilated. It was obvious that someone had used a knife to cut off the skin on her face. Is this Chun-er? At that moment, a trembling voice came from the crowd. Chun has a red mole on her abdomen. They looked at the female corpse's abdomen. Indeed, there was a dark red mole in the same place. Oh no. The manager came back to her senses and was so scared that her legs turned to jelly. Chun was the most talented and beautiful dancer among all the dancers. She had always been the best choice for the lead dancer and was also the pillar of the stage. If the person in front of them was Chun-er, then who was the one who shone brightly at the banquet tonight? The crowd also thought of this detail and were so scared that they collapsed to the ground. Could it be that the person who danced with them tonight was not a living person but Chun-er's soul? Idiot, someone has taken over Chun-er's identity. The manager scolded and scrambled towards the main tent, hoping that she could make it in time. My lord, your servant has something important to report to you. Something big has happened. Even though this was an important military camp, the manager could not care less. If she was late, she would die a terrible death. Who's making a ruckus outside? Inside the tent, Su Bei was in a discussion with a few of his trusted subordinates. After much difficulty, they finally had a clue. The ruckus outside was incessant. Reporting to my lord, the person outside is the manager who is in charge of the dancers. Su Bei's face darkened. The expressions of his subordinates were even more unsightly. These trusted subordinates did not approve of Su Bei bringing the dancers with him. However, because the dancers were used to bribe people, they turned a blind eye to it. But now, such a thing had happened. A lowly manager of the dancers actually dared to make a ruckus in the military camp. It was as if she had nothing better to do and was tired of living. Su Bei was also afraid of being lectured by his trusted subordinates. He could only summon up his courage and ask, "Bring her in." What's wrong with making such a ruckus? The manager was escorted in by the soldiers. As soon as she entered the tent, the manager knelt down with a thud. Her pale lips trembled uncontrollably. My lord, Chun-er, who led the dance, had her face skinned long ago. She's dead. The Chun who danced previously was a fake. Upon hearing this, Su Bei's first reaction was that Shi was so ruthless and cruel. Not only did he kill people, he even skinned their faces. Thinking about it, he felt as if he had fallen into an ice house. The other trusted subordinates were also scared out of their wits. Shi was in danger. My lord, quickly go and save him. The strategist's heart was strong. He steadied his mind and reacted accordingly. Su Bei could not care about anything else. He immediately brought his sword and went to Jiang Pengji's tent. In the short span of a few breaths, the two of them had exchanged more than 100 blows. Jiang Pengji took her time to probe the other party and confirmed her suspicions. The information had been successfully gathered. There was no need to keep this person alive. She rolled away to avoid the wind from the other party's palm strike. With one hand, she picked up the dagger that had fallen to the ground. The situation was suddenly reversed. I admit that your martial arts skills are not bad. However, external things are still external. If you don't train diligently and have not a shred of actual combat experience, even if you have exceptional martial arts skills, you are still trash. You want to assassinate me? Train for another 100 years. Jiang Pengji's left hand formed a knife and stabbed straight at the other party's throat. Her speed was so fast that even her afterimage could not be seen. The dancer dressed in red only felt her vision blur. The sound of bones cracking could be heard from her throat. The dagger that was supposed to stab Jiang Pengji had now pierced into her heart from behind. You have the system by your side. You won't die. You're welcome to deliver your head again next time. Before she lost consciousness, she heard Jiang Pengji murmur in her ear. Chapter 705. Jiang Pengji clicked her tongue as she watched her slumped body fall to the ground. She called out, "Come in." Yang Si heard his lord's instructions and immediately entered. In the darkness, he heard his lord say, "Jing Rong, I'll give you a chance to be a martial arts expert. Don't spill the beans later." Yang Si was speechless. My lord, what did he do? He was worried that the other party would be injured, but his lord had pushed the blame onto him. This was ridiculous. However, she was the lord of the little princess. He could only resign himself to his fate as her strategist. Yang Si fumbled in the darkness and lit the bronze lamp. Only then did he see the scene in the room. When he saw the female corpse on the ground, he was so frightened that his hair stood on end. He messed up his clothes, then took off his cloak and rubbed it on the wound on the woman's body. Then he put it back on. The audience in the streaming room watched Yang Si's fake act. They were all dumbfounded. Demon's proud son, my Rong Rong is amazing. Not only can he come up with strategies, but he can also help my lord clean up messes. Rotten cat bagua, ha ha ha, what the hell is Rong Rong? My name is Yang Jing Rong. A nickname is also very good. Yang Si hastily made up his clothes. The sound of messy footsteps could be heard from outside. There was also the sound of armor clashing. Yang Si glared at Jiang Pengji, who was pretending to be asleep. He carried his blood-stained sword out of the tent. Auto, lighting crew in position. Cameraman in position. Actors in position. Prepare the microphones. Rong Rong, begin your performance. Yang Si panted heavily. He glared fiercely at the group of people who had rushed over. He was filled with righteous indignation and wanted to gain the upper hand by making a show of strength. What a great chief of Zhe County. My lord trusted you and called you a brother. How dare you use such despicable methods? Su Bei felt extremely wronged. However, if mud fell into his pants, it would be shit even if it wasn't. He did not explain immediately. Instead, he was concerned about Jiang Pengji's situation. If Lu Shi was assassinated, his life would be over. Master, Su Bei, am a man of indomitable spirit. How could I do such a despicable thing? If you insist on accusing me of a crime, I will not argue with you. But the most important thing now is my brother's safety. Please let me in to see my brother. When Su Bei saw that Yang Si's face was only filled with rage and not sorrow, he heaved a sigh of relief. This at least proved that Lu Shi was still alive and had not died in his territory. Yang Si confronted them for a while, but in the end, he reluctantly stepped aside and let them enter the tent. With the bright light, everything inside the tent was revealed to them. A female corpse lay by the side of the bed. The person they were worried about was sleeping soundly. Her entire body reeked of alcohol and her cheeks were flushed red. Su Bei's heart finally calmed down. Only then did he have time to pay attention to the female corpse. The generals who had rushed over after hearing the news all sucked in a breath of cold air. It turned out that the female corpse's throat had been twisted and shattered, and there was a dagger in her back, piercing through her front and back. His attacks were truly ruthless. Yang Si lowered his eyes and snorted coldly. His back was as straight as a pine tree growing on the summit of a mountain. He said, "If it weren't for the fact that my lord still has some consciousness and delayed for a while until I arrived, I'm afraid that everything would be too late." If County Governor Su did not give an explanation, he would not let this matter rest so easily. "The dancer you gave to my lord was raised by your residents. How did she become an assassin who tried to kill my lord? She almost caused my lord to lose his life." Su Bei hurriedly explained in an attempt to clear his name. "Mister, please don't be angry. This matter was caused by a scoundrel. I definitely did not hire a killer. Mister, please come over and take a look. Look at this person's face, there's a layer of human skin on it." To tell you the truth, the manager of the dance troupe discovered that the dancer had been killed and her face had been peeled off. Only then did he realize that it was a trap. When I found out about this, I hurriedly brought people over to rescue him. Fortunately, Mister's martial arts are excellent and you finally killed the scoundrel and saved my brother. Yang Si's heart skipped a beat. He had personally witnessed someone rub the edge of the woman's face. Indeed, a layer of human skin had been rubbed off. Huang Xiaotian of few words, "Oh my god, there's actually such a thing." Zhao Yu, "Oh my god, is this a cameo by Strange Stories from a Chinese studio? I want to vomit just looking at the real human skin." Yu Xiao Yanran, "The atmosphere is too heavy. Let's talk about something happy." Rong Rong is quite good at acting as an expert. If this was any other time, the audience would definitely have used the phrase, Rong 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 is shamelessly acting as an expert, to make fun of Yang Si. But now, faced with such a cruel scene, the idle spectators no longer had the mood to liven up the atmosphere. The layer of human skin was peeled off, revealing a face covered in blood. The crowd was disgusted and no longer had the mood to look at how she looked. This person can't be any more dead. Just throw her away and feed her to the dogs. It's bad luck to leave her here. Su Bei waved his hand and ordered his men to throw the female corpse away. The crowd looked at the limp and drooping head. When they saw that the neck had been completely crushed, they were frightened and a chill ran down their spines. Su Bei swallowed his saliva and discreetly distanced himself from Yang Si. If this expert were to suddenly attack, his life would be in danger. Yang Si saw his petty actions but did not expose him. His eyes were still gloomy and his tone was filled with the tone of an expert. "I have to stand guard outside the tent for the Lord to prevent any mishaps. If there's nothing else, please return. When the Lord wakes up tomorrow, I will explain everything to her. County Chief Su, you have to give us an explanation for this matter." "Of course, mister, please rest assured." Su Bei cupped his hands in salute and sighed softly before leading his men away. Although Yang Si was guarding inside, he was still worried and deployed a group of elite soldiers to protect the tent. When they left, Yang Si heaved a long sigh of relief. An exceptional expert who was dressed like a weakling was indeed making things difficult for him. Just as he was about to leave, he glanced at his lord who was sleeping soundly. He knew that she was pretending to be asleep. He still had a stomach full of questions to ask her, but in the end, he held back. He hugged his blood-stained cloak and stayed outside for the entire night. He was mentally exhausted. Coupled with his good schedule, he quickly fell asleep. In a trance, Yang Si felt as if his body was covered by another layer of something. Initially, it was a little cold, but then it became warm. Jiang Pengji's eyes flashed with coldness. Like a wisp of smoke, her figure was faintly discernible. She twisted and turned, staying in the blind spot of the patrolling guards. Without alerting anyone, she left the campsite and ran in a certain direction. When the audience in the streaming room saw that Jiang Pengji did not continue streaming, they knew that there would be follow-up. Thus, they stayed up all night waiting for her to take action. But, what was she doing in the wilderness in the middle of the night? Not only that, but the surrounding scenery was becoming more and more desolate. Occasionally, human bones could be seen. It was a horrifying sight. Was the streaming room finally going to give up on the battle for hegemony and change to the supernatural and mythological path? Reality proved that the audience was overthinking things. Jiang Pengji had come here in the middle of the night to search for clues to prove her conjecture. She followed the spiritual imprint left on the red dancer's body and ran to her destination, but she did not see the corpse. Chapter 706. Looking at the blood stains on the ground, Jiang Pengji smiled. Under the cold moonlight, the smile was particularly horrifying. The audience in the streaming room shuddered. The streamer's style was not right. Yijie Weiming, streamer, what are you doing now? It's so horrifying. I wanted to sleep, but now I can't. Luoxue, it's really horrifying. Streamer, don't tell me you're here to check on the corpse of the painted skin? Luochen Yama, wow, are there really demons and ghosts in this world? Jiang Pengji sent a bullet screen to stop these people from continuing to make up stories and scare themselves. Streamer V, I'm here to look for the corpse. As I expected, it has disappeared. Or rather, the person has been resurrected and left. Don't think it's strange. I can stream for all of you here. Why can't the time traveler have a powerful cheat? However, that person's rank is not high. She failed to assassinate me and even suffered a loss at my hands. Jiang Pengji could have killed the red dancer in one move, but she did not do so. Instead, she stalled for time to test the waters. Apart from this, she played an evil trick and did something else. She infused her mental strength into the other party's body and imprisoned the system that was lurking in the woman's body. If she killed the red dancer, the system would give up on the time traveler and return to its original body. This would cause trouble for Jiang Pengji. After all, it was not time to close the net. She did not want to go against the main system, therefore, she forcefully bound the system to the body so that the system could not leave the body. The system's only choice was to spend a huge amount of popularity points to repair the female corpse and let the time traveler come back to life. She came out late at night to check if the time traveler came back to life. Sure enough, everything was going according to her plan. Jiang Pengji got up and left the mass grave. On the way back, she mercilessly mocked the system that was imprisoned in her mind. That's your brother. You're so stupid. The system flew into a rage out of humiliation and revealed its true nature. Jiang Pengji, you'll die a horrible death. A scholar could be killed but not humiliated. This woman had humiliated it time and time again. The system hated her to the core. Jiang Pengji squinted her eyes. Alright, I'll wait. Let's see who will toy with who to death. According to her speculation, the two hosts of the subsystem could see each other's live stream screen when they opened a live stream. During the banquet, she had been staring intently at the red-robed dancer's comments, and the contents of those comments had greatly broadened her horizons. She thought she was dirty enough, but she had never seen the entire bullet screen filled with pornographic content. There were even people who used words to simulate a disharmonious scene on the bullet screen. It was like a scene of excessive glue, unbearable to look at. How could this be considered a proper live broadcast room? It could practically be an A, B, C/V. Jiang Pengji had observed that the dancer dressed in red was unlikely to be able to see her screen. After thinking about it carefully, she deduced the reason behind it. The two subsystems each had two channels, receiving and sending messages. Jiang Pengji restricted the subsystem, so the streaming system could only receive messages and not send them out. She could receive the live stream interface presented by another subsystem, but the other party couldn't receive the information here. In other words, if her main system also started a live broadcast, she would be able to easily capture the other party. However, she did not believe a single word that the system said. Who knew if the system itself was a live broadcast system, or some other system? Jiang Pengji returned to the campsite under the moonlight. At that moment, the sky had already begun to brighten, and there were streaks of white light. As for where the red-robed dancer had gone, reality proved that Jiang Pengji's guess was correct. She had been resurrected. Rewinding time back a few hours, the red-robed dancer's neck had been crushed by Jianghu, and her heart had been pierced by a dagger. She could not be more dead than she was. She was in a daze, and she felt her body being pulled into the portable space of the system by a huge force. Her soul appeared in the brightly lit living room of the villa. The lingering fear of death terrified her. She hugged her legs and curled up on the sofa of the villa, wailing loudly. After a while, she sobbed and asked the system. "System, am I already dead?" The system's voice was sinister, and it carried a murderous intent that the red-robed dancer had never encountered before. Dead? She subconsciously shivered. Can I still be resurrected? I still have points of popularity. I don't want to die. 1 billion. The system spat out 2 words coldly. The red-robed dancer's expression froze. It was just restoring her physical body and resurrecting her, yet it required 1 billion points of popularity? Why is it so expensive? She felt a little more confident. 1 billion? How can I earn that much? The system's voice was full of anger. It's always been this price. It's fine if you don't want to resurrect. No one is forcing you. One could tell that the system was in a very bad mood just by listening to its voice, but the red-robed dancer did not know what was going on. She felt wronged. Of course, she did not know what was going on. After discovering Jianghu's strength, the system wanted to get rid of its current host and run for its life. How could it have known that the woman would be so treacherous? She actually used underhanded methods to bind it to the stupid woman in front of it. From now on, unless Jianghu's spirit died or she released the host, the system would be bound to this body. It would not be able to temporarily leave the host and send messages to the main system. Even if it wanted to escape, it would not be able to. What the F***ck? It was not difficult for it to imagine how the other system was treated. The red-robed dancer wanted to be stubborn for a while longer, but she did not want to be trapped in the system space for the rest of her life. It was too lonely, and she could not bear it. Therefore, it was better for her to give in first. 1 billion. But I don't have that many points right now. In order to rush here from Zhongzhou as soon as possible, I spent all my popularity points to exchange for the deity's 1,000 miles talisman. You know best how many points I have in my account. The red-robed dancer still wanted to act pitiful and quibble a little. The system was rather easy to talk to. It gave the red-robed dancer 2 choices. Pay in installments or overdraft. Choose one. I'm reminding you to make your choice as soon as possible. Otherwise, if your corpse is completely destroyed, you won't be able to resurrect. The system was not a good person. Whether it was installments or overdraft, the red-robed dancer would have to bear a large portion of the interest. Faced with such a tyrannical condition, she refused in her heart, but she had no choice but to grit her teeth and agree. The system laughed mockingly. Who asked you to be so stupid? I originally wanted you to use the level 9 loyalty talisman, but you were too greedy and wanted to assassinate. The red-robed dancer was already feeling very aggrieved, and now she was being mocked by the system. She was so angry that her internal organs were about to move. She had snuck into the dance troupe to use the level 9 loyalty talisman on Jianghu, but she had not expected Jianghu to be so drunk. Chapter 707. Thinking of this, the dancer in red felt even more remorseful. Fortunately, she still had the level 9 loyalty talisman. She still had a chance to turn the tables. Once she used the level 9 loyalty talisman to control Jianghu, she would definitely return the favor and make that slut's life a living hell. The dancer in red chose to split the time. One person and one system came to an agreement. She was resurrected. Her broken neck and pierced heart were now intact. She opened her eyes and found herself lying in a mass grave. Her surroundings were covered in pure white snow. Skeletons could still be seen sticking out of the ground. She was so frightened that she almost crawled away from her original spot. Her body was still cold and it was inconvenient for her to move. She could only lie low and wait for another opportunity. The sky broke and Yang Si woke up on time due to his biological clock. He rubbed his eyes and realized that he was wrapped in warm bedding. Not far away, there were 2 extinguished charcoal braziers. My lord? Yang Si shook his head and recalled the events of the previous night. He called out to her, but Jiang Pengji's voice came from outside the tent. You're awake? Jiang Pengji had already changed into a clean set of clothes. She looked at Yang Si with a faint smile. Greetings, my lord. Yang Si felt his old arms and legs ache. Of course, no one would dare to curl up and sleep the entire night. Their limbs would protest. Go and wash up first. We'll settle the score with Su Bei and ask for some compensation. Although Su Bei was innocent, Jiang Pengji was obviously trying to blackmail him. It was not her style not to take advantage of him. Yang Si nodded and said with a gloomy expression, Indeed, we have to settle the score. If not for my lord's superior martial arts skills, I don't know what would have happened to you last night. Yang Si did not know much inside information, so he did not expect that Jiang Pengji had purposely blackmailed Su Bei. This was a trap she had dug. How could Jiang Pengji not know that there was something wrong with the lead dancer? Precisely because she knew that there was something wrong with that person, she took advantage of the situation and set up such a trap at the last minute. Poor Su Bei. He had even thoughtfully sent the person to her and helped her blackmail. Last night, Yang Si slept well and Jiang Pengji slept even more soundly. Only Su Bei and his subordinates did not sleep. At this time, how could they still sleep? Who was it that skinned Chun Er's face? Who put Chun Er's face on that female assassin's face and ordered her to kill Lu Shi? Who was the one who had set up such a trap for Lu Shi to die in his camp? Who was the one who had framed him? Several questions lingered in their minds. The atmosphere in the commander's tent was so gloomy that it could drip water. Finally, Su Bei spoke first, breaking the heavy atmosphere. Do you think, this matter, could it be done by second bro? Everyone in the tent looked at each other. In fact, their first suspect was also Su Fei. However, a quarrel between brothers was still a scandal. As subjects, it was not suitable for them to sow discord between their lord and their family. Su Bei and Su Fei were direct descendants of the Su clan. Because the head of the family was their grandfather, regardless of whether they were the eldest grandson or the second grandson, they all had the right to inherit the Su family. In terms of seniority, naturally the eldest grandson, Su Bei, was more suitable. He was gentle, polite, skillful, had a good reputation, and was capable. However, the head of the Su family favored Su Fei more. This was because this youngest grandson was much better looking than Su Bei. His features also resembled the head of the family when he was young. Naturally, he could win the favor of the old man. Su Fei had a sweet tongue and could often make the old man smile from ear to ear. In this aspect, Su Bei could not compare to his cousin. If Su Fei was incompetent, it would have been fine. However, Su Fei was not weak either. As the two cousins grew older, the competition between them became more intense. Occasionally, they would play some tricks, but they would not go overboard. This was a silent tacit understanding between the two brothers. Su Bei never expected that his cousin, who usually kept quiet, would take someone's life the moment he made a move. If Lu Shi did not have someone skilled in martial arts by his side to protect him, who knew, if Lu Shi died that night, Lu Shi would use 2 provinces and 1 county to take revenge on him. If this scheme succeeded, to appease Lu Shi's anger, the Su family would probably abandon him and throw him out to be dealt with by Lu Shi. This would be considered an explanation to Lu Shi. Thinking about this, Su Bei could not help but shudder. What a vicious scheme. Other than Su Fei, he could not think of a second suspect. Let me ask you, do you think it was the second son who did this? Su Bei raised his voice again. The people under the tent could not sit still anymore. They could only brace themselves and respond. We are unwilling to believe it, but the possibility of it being the second Lang Jun is very high, they had never considered that this was Jiang Pengji's own doing. All signs pointed to the fact that the mastermind was someone who understood Su Bei's campsite very well. Otherwise, how could he have known where the dancer was? How did he know that Su Bei had invited Lu Shi to a banquet today in an attempt to rope in the Lu family father and son? If there was no support, how could he have killed the dancer without anyone knowing and skinned her face? There must have been a mole helping him. Su Bei and Su Fei had competed for many years and were familiar with each other. It was normal for him to plant an informant. If Su Fei knew about this, he would definitely sigh with emotion. What a great scheme. Su Bei closed his eyes in agony. He and Su Fei had competed for many years, but they were still brothers. They had never thought of killing each other. Today, this cousin of his had suddenly stabbed him in the back and had truly hurt Su Bei. However, he did not have the time to grieve and mourn for the lost brotherhood. The most important thing now was to stabilize Lu Shi and improve the relationship between the two factions. Even if it could not be restored to its original state, they could not become enemies. At the very least, they could not let the second son take advantage of them. Su Bei's goal was to be the chief of the alliance. If he angered the father and son of the Lu family, they would turn around and help the second son, Su Fei. He would suffer a great loss. Everyone discussed for the entire night and came up with many ways to remedy the situation. Su Bei was like a prisoner awaiting his trial, anxiously awaiting the final outcome. They did not sleep the entire night, but Jiang Pengji slept soundly. After breakfast, she brought Yang Si along to visit Su Bei. Worthy younger brother. When Su Bei saw Jiang Pengji, it was as if he had seen a close relative. That call gave one goosebumps. Brother Su. Compared to the enthusiasm from last night, Jiang Pengji's attitude today was rather cold. Su Bei did not feel awkward. He said, I heard that you were attacked by an assassin last night. Does my worthy younger brother know who did it? Jiang Pengji laughed coldly. I was attacked in Brother Su's camp. The assassin was a dancer arranged by Brother Su. I should be asking Brother Su about this matter. She was indeed angry. Su Bei sighed to himself. Last night's incident was a trap set up by a scoundrel. As an elder brother, we hit it off well at first sight. Why would I want to harm you? Su Bei spoke earnestly, but he did not reveal who the mastermind was. Instead, he called a few people over. They were all witnesses. The scoundrel was ruthless. He skinned a stranger's face and disguised her as a dancer in an attempt to assassinate my worthy younger brother. This matter is indeed my fault. I should not have arranged this for you, sigh. Jiang Pengji's expression was hesitant. Her heart wavered. Su Bei persisted and analyzed the situation in detail. If Lu Shi died here, he would be the first unlucky person. Why would he dig his own grave? Chapter 708. When Su Bei heard this, he was delighted. He knew that there was still a chance to turn the situation around. With an ashamed expression, he said, I am truly incompetent. Not only did I frighten you, but I am also worried about me. Brother Su, don't belittle yourself. If you are so incompetent, wouldn't I be useless? When Jiang Pengji said this, the tense atmosphere in the commander's tent became more cheerful and relaxed. Su Bei immediately led her to her seat. However, can Brother Su tell me who the mastermind is? When Jiang Pengji said this, a cold glint flashed across her eyes. Her tone was icy. Regardless of whether it was directed at me or if I was implicated, if it wasn't for my good luck last night, I would have been reincarnated by the King of Hell. If I don't vent my anger, others will think that Lu Shi of the Lu family is a soft persimmon that can be pinched and that I am easy to bully. Su Bei wanted to cover it up. After all, he and Su Fei were family. Internally, they had conflicting interests, but externally, they were united. As a descendant of the Su family, they were bound together for good or ill. Su Fei could do anything to bring him down, but Su Bei could not do so, at least not now. However, In the face of Jiang Pengji's repeated probing and questioning, Su Bei could only divulge a few words so as not to destroy their recently improved relationship. Actually, regarding the villain behind this, I have yet to confirm it. I only have a suspect. Su Bei's expression was ugly. He deliberated and said, I am ashamed to say this, but this person is my cousin. Currently, there is no solid evidence, so I cannot convict him. Don't worry, brother. Give me some time and I will definitely get to the bottom of this matter and give you an explanation. If Su Fei did it, I will not be biased. Jiang Pengji listened expressionlessly. Brother Su's cousin, Su Fei? Isn't that your closest relative? How could it be? Every family has its own difficulties, and everyone has their own difficulties. Su Bei felt slightly embarrassed. Brothers fighting each other was not good news. It was also a manifestation of the family's restlessness and poor upbringing. Su Fei and I have been fighting for many years. It is no secret that we are not on good terms. Our family's misfortune is shameful. Brother, I have made a fool out of myself. Actually, I've known Su Fei for many years, so it's hard for me to draw a conclusion about the truth of this matter. Even though Su Bei had already convicted Su Fei in his heart, he could not say it out loud. He could only obscure the main point. Jiang Pengji nodded obediently and said expectantly, Then I will wait for your news. Seeing that she was so obedient and easy to talk to, Su Bei heaved a long sigh in his heart. He was such a gullible youth, so why was his cousin so not cute? Su Bei then set up a banquet to entertain Jiang Pengji, providing her with delicious food and drinks. Jiang Pengji was almost done eating when she suddenly remembered Yang Xi's instructions. She said, Brother Su, I heard from Jing Rong that I promised Brother Su last night that I would sell you the method to make the blue bricks. When Su Bei heard this, his nerves instantly tensed up. It was as if an ice-cold current had suddenly appeared from the soles of his feet to his brain. If he asked himself honestly, he indeed coveted the method to make the blue bricks, but today was different from yesterday. Bringing it up now was asking for abuse. He still had a huge pile of *T to clean up, and he had not completely cleared himself of suspicion. If he suddenly made such a move, what if Lu Shi suspected that he had taken advantage of her when she was in a drunken stupor to trick her into selling the core technique? Wouldn't all his previous efforts go to waste? Su Bei's brain worked quickly, and he secretly gave his confidant a look, intending to ask for help from outside. How could he smooth this matter over? The strategist secretly gestured a few actions to him, and Su Bei understood them. This matter is indeed true. Su Bei glanced at Yang Xi and saw that he was looking at him with a smile that was not quite a smile, as if giving him a silent warning. His heart thumped, and he knew that he could not fool him. He said, I'm not afraid of being laughed at, brother. Last night, I saw Master Yuanjing's disciples painting, and my heart yearned for the scene in the painting. I also want to govern Zhe County and make it as lively and prosperous as this. Zhe County is located in the south, where it is warm and rainy, and objects tend to rot and mold easily. If we have green bricks as building materials, I feel that the situation will improve significantly. Last night, I didn't know that brother was drunk, and I asked a few questions. Now that I think about it, it's still not appropriate. Brother, you don't have to take it to heart. Jiang Pengji shook her head disapprovingly, her voice resolute and decisive. A gentleman's word is as good as the whip of a fast horse. How can I take back what I've said? Regardless of whether I was drunk and unconscious last night, or if I said the wrong thing, since I've already promised Brother Su, I can't go back on my word. Moreover, Brother Su's actions are for the sake of the people of Zhe County, and not for your own selfish reasons. I've always admired Brother Su's character and talent. If I can help you a little, why would I refuse? Among the people present, apart from a few strong-willed and straightforward generals, who wasn't a highly skilled actor? For Su Bei to be able to maintain such a good reputation, his acting skills and ability to lie through his teeth were also top-notch. The audience in the streaming room and Yang Xi watched coldly as the two top-notch actors competed with each other, playing tricks on each other, and silently watching the show. Su Bei didn't expect Jiang Pengji to make such a promise. He was touched and admired her, but he was even more surprised. This meant that Lu Shi had completely forgiven him. Their relationship hadn't been destroyed by last night's incident. While maintaining their relationship, if he could purchase the method to produce the flashing bricks, that would be the best outcome. Su Bei smiled. Brother, your promise is as weighty as Mount Tai. I'm ashamed of my inferiority. Jiang Pengji was a thick-skinned person. When she was narcissistic, she would be narcissistic. When she should be humble, she would be humble. Of course, most of her modesty was to pave the way for her future narcissism. She and Su Bei complimented each other for a while before entering the bargaining stage. Because Su Bei was the one in the wrong, he didn't need Jiang Pengji to deliberately fight for his own benefits. He took the initiative to give in. It wasn't easy to set a price for a technique, but Su Bei was a wealthy man. His strategist wasn't short-sighted, so he set a decent price for the flashing bricks. However, Jiang Pengji was a black-hearted person. How could she be satisfied with such a small profit? She frowned, as if she was hesitating. Su Bei thought she wasn't satisfied with the price, so he asked, Brother, what do you think of the price? Brother Su thinks highly of me. Naturally, I won't be ungrateful. It's just that. Jiang Pengji wanted to say something, but she stopped. She only said half of it and hid half of it. She really had an obsessive-compulsive disorder. Su Bei hurriedly asked. Only then did Jiang Pengji reveal her intentions hesitantly. She wore a penitent expression that said, I'm guilty, I'm too greedy. Chapter 709. If her acting skills were slightly worse, it would be considered a clumsy performance. But would Jiang Pengji's acting skills be bad? Thus, she successfully portrayed herself as a righteous gentleman who cherished the world and had gone astray for a moment. After realizing her mistake, she repented and reflected on herself. Even though Yang Si was used to seeing his lord's acting skills, he was about to be led into the ditch by her. She was simply a drama queen. The idle viewers in the streaming room queued up to give Jiang Pengji likes, sending countless, 666, comments. Huang Xiaotian, a man of few words, I seem to have seen a walking drama queen. With the streamer's acting skills, the judges must be blind if she doesn't win an Oscar. Midnight Epilepsy, a man of few words, her tricks are too profound. I suddenly feel sorry for Su Bei. He met a peak drama queen and was almost fooled. Fengwu, Su Bei, and the streamer, this is a showdown between two 10,000-year-old drama queens. I suddenly thought of a joke. If it's a fight for hegemony, the feudal lords will rise together. The lords of every faction will surely be drama queens. If these drama queens were to gather together and have them act together, whoever has the most profound tricks will survive until the end. Ha ha ha, I think our streamer will definitely defeat everyone in seconds. With the support of the idol buff, Jiang Pengji successfully trapped Su Bei. Su Bei was unaware of the impending danger and continued to tease Jiang Pengji with a smile. My worthy brother, you were trying to persuade me just now. Why are you remorseful now? Everyone makes mistakes. What's more, my worthy brother's actions aren't wrong. I've never heard of an item like the flashing brick. My worthy brother must have put in a lot of effort to create it. Even blood brothers have clear accounts. It's only right and proper for me to purchase it from my worthy brother. If you don't accept it, I won't comply. Jiang Pengji pondered for a while and finally opened her mouth hesitantly. Brother Su's words make sense. An item like the flashing brick that benefits the people shouldn't be owned by just one or two families. If we monopolize it, it would seem narrow-minded. Since Brother Su wants to buy the method to create the flashing brick, it must be valuable. I have an idea, but I'm not sure if it's feasible. Why don't we lower the price and sell it to a few more families? Not only can we promote it, but we can also earn some money to subsidize our family. She said the first few words shyly, as if she was guilty of her own thoughts, but the last sentence was mischievous. Su Bei smiled at first, but soon after, he seriously considered her words. Because of Jiang Pengji's previous performance, he did not think that she was acting. Instead, he felt that she was noble and had a benevolent heart. If it were someone else, they would definitely try their best to squeeze out all the benefits they could, but Lu Shi did the exact opposite. Who would see a profiteer give away the money he had earned? Su Bei thought to himself that if they were in a time of peace and prosperity, it would be a blessing for the people to have such officials. He had always wanted to find a chance to leave and improve his relationship with Lu. He had always been looking for an opportunity to leave a good impression on her and get closer to her. Now that there was a ready-made opportunity in front of him, he would not miss it. He said, "Brother, if you don't mind me being a busybody, why don't you lend me that painting scroll first?" Brother asked. Jiang was, brother. Lu, Bei. I brother Jiang. And I, has Wang Long Jiang, I saying, I. I don't have much else, but I have built up some connections. Su Bei's tone carried a tinge of pride. From what I can see, your shy personality is not suitable for this kind of work. If younger brother trusts me, I will definitely handle this matter properly for you. Jiang Pengji was startled. She only regained her composure after a while. She understood Su Bei's meaning. How can I accept this? She was so happy that she almost bit her tongue. She spoke incoherently. Brother Su, you are willing to do so much for me. All the more I cannot accept your money. How about this, I am willing to give you the technique to make the flashing bricks for free. Before she could finish her sentence, Su Bei interrupted her. Blood brothers should settle accounts clearly. Although we are not related by blood, we feel like old friends at first sight. We are like brothers. How can I take advantage of you? He had to give her money, and he even gave her quite a bit. However, whether the money was to be used to purchase the technique or to compensate for the mental damage she had suffered last night, it was up to the benevolent to see. After breakfast, Jiang Pengji brought along Yang Si, her personal guards, and a contract with Su Bei's official and private seal. She wrapped her bag and slowly left. Yang Si was speechless. Watching the whole process, he felt that his value as a strategist was reduced to a backdrop. He was not even comparable to a salted fish. I'm so tired. I feel like I'm tongue-tied when I speak in such a genteel manner. Jiang Pengji tightened her rabbit fur cloak to block out the cold wind. She then rubbed her stiff cheeks. Acting was really tiring. Yang Si frowned. My lord, will Su Bei and the rest really fall for it? Jiang Pengji thought about it. It's hard to say in the future, but at least they've fallen for it now. However, there is no perfect plan in this world. If I'm discovered, then so be it. What's there to be afraid of? Even if they discover something, my crime is merely taking advantage of the situation. At most, I'll add another crime of using Su Bei. Both crimes are harmless. If we carefully consider it, they won't have much to lose. However, I was almost assassinated in their camp. This is an ironclad fact. To them, it's better for me to be alive than dead. If I die, they will be finished too. Therefore, even if they were unwilling to accept it, they still had to swallow their anger. Who would dare to shed all pretense of cordiality? This is indeed the case. Yang Si recalled the scene from last night and asked, was that assassin really Su Fei's doing? If it was really Su Fei's doing, then the estrangement between the Su brothers was deeper than anyone could imagine. Jiang Pengji glanced at Yang Si and asked him in reply. Do you think this is Su Fei's doing? Yang Si shook his head. I don't think so. Su Fei has no motive. Su Fei was indeed the most suspicious, but from Yang Si's point of view, Su Fei had no motive. Why did he say so? One of the main reasons the Su brothers could become powerful figures in the alliance army was that they had a total of 100,000 troops. If their relationship broke down and they went their separate ways, each of them would only have 50,000 troops in their hands. They wouldn't be as much of a threat. The Su brothers' interests were tied together. There were conflicts of interest, but there were also areas where they helped each other. They were bound together for good or for ill. If one of them fell, the other wouldn't be able to gain any benefits. Su Fei assassinated Lu Shi and then framed Su Bei. This was obviously a stupid move that would kill 1,000 enemies while sacrificing 800 men. However, if this matter wasn't done by Su Fei, Yang Si really couldn't think of any other suspects. Unless Yang Si shifted his gaze to his lord. Could it be that this assassination was directed and acted by the lord herself? No. Impossible. Yang Si had just come up with this idea, but it was immediately extinguished by him. The loophole in this conjecture was far greater than Su Fei's. Chapter 710. Yang Si immediately rushed forward and questioned her. My lord, you already know who the mastermind is? Why did they do this? Why did they want to assassinate my lord? For what reason? Jiang Pengji laughed coldly and said, this assassination wasn't to frame Su Bei or Su Fei. This assassin is only targeting your lord. The assassin's target is me, not anyone else. He has never targeted anyone else. Su Bei and Su Fei were caught in an undeserved calamity. Who asked them to be so unlucky and coincidentally bump into me? Speaking of which, the assassin's training was too poor. He was not proficient in martial arts. With such little ability, he actually had the courage to assassinate me? What a waste of my time. Yang Si had never expected that the assassin was actually targeting his lord. Could it be the lord's enemy? Thinking of this, he panicked. This matter, should I report it to the old master? The enemy was in the dark while they were out in the open. It was impossible to guard against them. If he informed Lu Shi, it would be safer. No need, I can handle it. If I tell my father about this, it'll just be adding another person to worry about me. Yang Si sighed and repeatedly reminded her, my lord, don't force yourself. Safety is the most important thing. I know. Yang Si knew that he could not persuade Jiang Pengji, so he could only put the matter aside for now and discuss it later. On second thought, Yang Si sympathized with the Su brothers. They were caught in an undeserved calamity. I suddenly thought of something. The Su brothers are really pitiful. Perhaps they'll break up because of this matter. When Yang Si said this, there was a hint of schadenfreude in his tone. It was as if he was watching a good show. Don't say that he was heartless. Everyone served their own master, so no matter what he did, he would not go overboard. Wasn't being a strategist a job that harmed others to benefit oneself? The Su brothers appear to be harmonious on the surface, but their battle in the dark is getting more and more intense. Even without this matter, Su Fei and Su Bei's battle will intensify and cross the lines sooner or later. As for breaking up, He, the leader of the Su family, is already old. How many years does he have left to live? As long as he's alive, the battle between Su Bei and Su Fei will be restrained. If he dies and the Su family hasn't chosen a worthy successor, these two cousins will definitely fight until the world is turned upside down. Jiang Pengji analyzed the situation calmly and added, the Su family has a rich heritage. They may be our future enemy. Now that there was a chance to step on them, it would be a pity to miss it. Your master is very clear about public and private matters. Even if we have a good personal relationship, we can't be careless about official matters. Although she had a good, personal relationship with Su Bei, she still had to step on him when it came to official business. Yang Si's mind raced as he asked, then in the alliance meeting, are we still supporting Su Bei? Jiang Pengji smiled and turned her head. Of course I support you. Your lord's words carry enormous weight. I won't break my promise easily. For the salted fish party, it didn't matter who they supported. If supporting Su Bei could maximize her benefits, why wouldn't she support him? The Allied camp stretched for more than 200 miles. It was a magnificent sight. The flags fluttered in the cold wind. Jiang Pengji kept a low profile as she returned to the campsite. She was still thinking about all sorts of things. I heard that someone tried to assassinate the Lord last night. Are you injured? Hearing that Jiang Pengji had returned, Fengzhen hurried over. Seeing that she was safe and sound, his anxious expression eased slightly. Jiang Pengji dismounted from her horse. She threw Little White's reins to her personal guard and faced Fengzhen. I forgot to bring you wine. Don't be angry. Fengzhen was stunned. After a while, he understood the meaning behind Jiang Pengji's words. He almost choked with anger. Why was she still concerned about wine at this time? Don't worry, I'm not injured. I've gained a lot from this trip. I'll tell you in detail when we return to the tent. Jiang Pengji walked towards the tent as she spoke. Halfway through, she thought of something and turned to ask Fengzhen, you just received news that I was attacked last night? Fengzhen replied, yes. I was just about to rush over to Su Bei's campsite. I didn't expect you to return first. Jiang Pengji thought about it and knew that Su Bei had blocked the news. If the news was leaked before the matter was resolved and the big boss, Lu Shi, came, Su Bei wouldn't be able to handle it. Send someone to send a message to my father. Tell him that I've returned safely. The assassin didn't hurt me last night. Tell him not to worry. Fengzhen bowed and turned to summon a soldier. He asked the soldier to pass the news to Lu Shi, who was near the campsite, so that he wouldn't be worried. When Lu Shi received the message from the messenger, his heart that had been hanging in the air finally settled down. His brows relaxed slightly. He waved his hand at the messenger and said, go and receive your reward. His daughter had been saved from danger. Indeed, he should reward the messenger. Lu Shi glanced at the sky outside the tent. He frowned so deeply that his brows almost formed a knot. He knew more inside information than Yang Si. Naturally, he knew that the assassination wasn't aimed at the Su brothers. It was obviously aimed at Jiang Pengji. It's good that she's safe. Ah Min, if your spirit is still here, you must protect her well. Lu Shi rubbed his hands together to generate heat. He let out a long sigh. His breath formed a white mist that drifted into the air. If there was anyone in the world who hated the father and son, to the bone, he couldn't think of a second person besides that woman. Could it be that that stupid woman has finally come to her senses and knows Emperor Chen's identity? It's been so many years, yet she only found out. Ha! Lu Shi mocked in a low voice. He mumbled to himself, his voice so low that it was almost inaudible. It's a pity that she was still one step too late. The current Lanting is no longer a doll that can be squeezed by anyone. The corners of his lips curled into a faint smile. Even his gaze seemed to become gentle and profound, as if he could see another world. Ah Min, wait a little longer. When Lanting reaches that position, your husband's wish will be fulfilled. Our family will have a complete reunion. It wasn't clear whether these words were meant for his own family or for someone who had already passed away. 2 flowers bloomed, one on each side. Su Bei volunteered to help and contacted a number of allied forces. This action made Su Bei's old rival, Su Fei, feel uneasy. He received a report from his informant, Lu Shi's son, Lu Shi, had been attacked by an assassin in Su Bei's tent last night. Upon hearing this news, his first reaction was happiness. Su Bei was going to be in big trouble. However, after the analysis of his tents, Su Fei broke out in a cold sweat. His emotions were in a mess, and he didn't know what to do. Lu Shi had been attacked by an assassin. It would have been fine if he had died. However, he had been attacked by an assassin and didn't die. Who was the biggest suspect? Needless to say, this flying pot from the sky was directly pinned on Su Fei. Even if he had 100 mouths, he wouldn't be able to clear his name. If Su Bei fell, he would benefit the most. Hence, he had a motive to be a suspect. He had to bear the blame even if he didn't want to. However, it was the same problem. Standing in Su Fei's position, he felt that this was a self-directed play by his cousin, Su Bei. Su Bei, that hypocrite, is really hateful. He framed me for no reason. What a good show of a thief crying thief. When Su Fei received this news, he was so angry that smoke was coming out of his head. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.